At 6:47 a.m. on March 15, 2025, a shaky cell phone video changed everything. The footage showed Elon Musk, the man who built electric cars and rockets to Mars, stumbling out of a small Las Vegas church at dawn. His face was streaked with tears. His hands trembled. When reporters swarmed him asking what happened inside, he could barely speak. "I saw something," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I can't explain it. Everything I believed was wrong." Then he drove away in a Cybertruck, leaving the world with one burning question. What did Elon Musk see in that church? Within hours, the video went viral. 20 million views. 50 million. The hashtag Vegas Miracle trended worldwide. News outlets speculated. Breakdown, conversion, publicity stunt. But 6 other people knew the truth. 6 witnesses who'd been inside that church with Musk, who'd seen what he saw, who'd experienced something impossible. And one of them, a grieving journalist named Marcus Chen, would have to decide if he was brave enough to tell a story the world wouldn't believe. A story about death and resurrection. About 7 broken people and 1 impossible night. About a miracle that would cost Marcus everything to share. This is that story. The video started shaking at exactly 6:47 a.m. Marcus Chen watched it for the 17th time, his laptop screen glowing blue in the dark hotel room. The coffee beside him had gone cold an hour ago. Outside, San Francisco was waking up, but Marcus hadn't slept at all. On the screen, a woman's voice shouted, "There he is. That's Elon Musk." The camera jerked sideways, focusing on a figure emerging from a small building. Even through the grainy phone footage, Marcus could see the man's face clearly. It was definitely Elon Musk. His hair was messy. His eyes were red. And tears, actual tears, were streaming down his face. "Mr. Musk. Mr. Musk." Voices called from behind the camera. At least a dozen people had gathered outside the church, their phones raised like digital torches in the early morning darkness. Musk stumbled slightly on the church steps. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. Or maybe like someone who had just woken up from a terrible dream. "What happened in there?" a reporter shouted. Marcus recognized her. Jenny Kowalski from Channel 8 News in Las Vegas. She must have been doing an early morning story nearby when someone tipped her off. Musk stopped walking. He turned toward the cameras. His mouth opened, then closed. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, but more tears came. "I saw." His voice cracked. Even through the phone's tiny speaker, Marcus heard the raw emotion. "I can't explain it." "Can't explain what?" Jenny pushed forward, her microphone extended. "Mr. Musk, what were you doing in this church at midnight?" "Everything I believed." Musk shook his head, looking at the ground. "Everything I believed was wrong." Then he moved quickly toward a silver Cybertruck parked at the curb. The crowd surged forward, but Musk was already inside. The electric vehicle hummed to life and pulled away, leaving 24 confused people standing outside the International Church of Las Vegas. The video ended. Marcus closed his laptop and rubbed his eyes. He'd been a technology journalist for 12 years. He'd interviewed hundreds of CEOs, covered thousands of stories, learned to spot a fake viral moment from a mile away. This wasn't fake. Whatever happened to Elon Musk inside that church, it was real. His phone buzzed. A text from his editor, Sarah. "Did you watch it?" Marcus typed back 17 times. "Get to Vegas. Find out what happened." Marcus stared at the message. Las Vegas. He hadn't been back to Vegas since. He pushed the thought away. That was 2 years ago. A different life. A different Marcus. "When?" He texted. "Today. Book the next flight." This story is everywhere. CNN, Fox, BBC. Everyone wants to know what Elon Musk saw in that church. Marcus stood and walked to the window. The sun was rising over the bay, painting the sky orange and pink. Somewhere out there, people were believing this story. They were calling it a miracle, a conversion, a sign from God. Marcus knew better. There was always a logical explanation. Always. His phone buzzed again. Another text from Sarah. "I know Vegas is hard for you, but you're the only person I trust to get this right." Marcus closed his eyes. Vegas wasn't just hard. Vegas was where his sister Maya had wanted to go for her 30th birthday. 3 years ago. She'd been sick then, but the cancer was in remission. The doctors said she had time. They'd walked down the strip together, eaten overpriced buffets, laughed at the fake Eiffel Tower and the fake Venice canals. "Everything here is fake, Mark," Maya had said, holding his arm as they watched the Bellagio fountains dance. "Except the people who come here hoping for real miracles." 6 months later, the cancer came back. Aggressive. Unstoppable. No miracle came from Maya. Marcus opened his eyes and picked up his phone. He typed, "I'll take the story." 3 hours later, Marcus was on Southwest Flight 3047 to Las Vegas. The plane was half empty. He sat in a window seat, watching California disappear beneath white clouds. The woman across the aisle was reading something on her tab. Marcus caught a glimpse of the headline, "Elon Musk's mysterious church visit, breakdown or breakthrough." The woman noticed him looking. "Can you believe this?" she said, turning her screen toward him. "Elon Musk crying about Jesus. The man who wants to colonize Mars suddenly believes in God." Marcus gave a polite smile. "Strange world. My sister thinks it's a publicity stunt." The woman continued. She seemed excited to talk about it. "You know, for some new Tesla feature or something. Like maybe they're making Christian cars now." She laughed at her own joke. "Maybe," Marcus said, though he didn't believe it. He'd watched that video too many times. That wasn't acting. That was a man genuinely shaken. "What do you think happened?" the woman asked. Marcus looked back out the window. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." The woman's eyes widened. "Are you a reporter?" "Something like that." She leaned closer, lowering her voice like they were sharing a secret. "My aunt lives in Las Vegas. She knows people who go to that church. Small place, she says. Mostly poor people, immigrants, folks down on their luck. Not the kind of place where billionaires usually show up at midnight." Marcus pulled out his notebook, an actual paper notebook, old-fashioned but reliable. "What's your aunt's name?" The woman hesitated. "Why? I'm writing a story about this. If your aunt knows anything, I'd like to talk to her." The woman shook her head quickly. No, she wouldn't want to be involved. She's very private." But then she leaned even closer. "But I'll tell you what she told me. She said something happened in that church that night. Something impossible." "Impossible how?" "She wouldn't say exactly. Just that 7 people were there. 7 witnesses. And they all saw the same thing." The woman paused. Whatever it was, it changed all of them. Not just Elon Musk. Marcus wrote in his notebook. 7 witnesses. All changed. "Did your aunt say who the other 6 people were?" he asked. The woman shook her head. "No. But she said one of them was the pastor. Reverend Trish something. Nigerian lady. Very kind. My aunt loves her." "Reverend Trish," Marcus wrote. That was a start. The plane began its descent into Las Vegas. Through the window, Marcus saw the desert spreading out below, brown earth, scattered buildings, and then suddenly the strip rising from nothing like a mirage. Hotels shaped like pyramids and castles, the Luxor's light beam pointing straight up into the blue sky. The Stratosphere Tower. All of it shimmering in the desert heat. Maya's voice echoed in his memory, "Everything here is fake, Mark. Except the people who come here hoping for real miracles." The plane touched down with a gentle bump. Marcus gathered his bag and joined the crowd shuffling toward the exit. Inside McCarran Airport, slot machines blinked and chimed, taking money from passengers who couldn't wait until they reached the casinos. Marcus walked past them without looking. He collected his rental car, a boring silver sedan, and programmed the GPS for International Church of Las Vegas, 6115 West Charleston Boulevard. The address had been easy to find online. The church had a simple website with service times and a photo of Reverend Patricia Okafor smiling in front of a small building with a white cross on top. Marcus drove west, away from the strip. The fancy hotels and bright lights disappeared behind him. This was the real Las Vegas. The one tourists never saw. Pawn shops and payday loan stores. Apartments with faded paint. Churches and converted warehouses. People just trying to survive in the city that promised everyone could get rich. The International Church sat on a quiet corner, surrounded by a small parking lot. It was tiny, maybe big enough for 200 people. The building was old but well maintained, painted white with blue trim. A simple wooden cross hung above the door. No electronic signs. No fancy architecture. Just a humble church in a humble neighborhood. Marcus parked across the street and sat in his car, watching. He felt something strange in his chest. Not quite pain, but not comfort either. This was the kind of place Maya would have loved. She'd always preferred the small churches, the quiet ones where people really prayed instead of performing. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Update," Marcus typed. "At the church. Going in now." But he didn't move. He sat in the car, looking at that simple building, and wondered what Elon Musk had seen inside that changed everything he believed. A woman emerged from the church, African American, maybe 50 years old, wearing a simple blue dress. She carried a box of food toward a van with the church logo on the side. She moved with purpose but without hurry, like someone who had important work to do, and all day to do it. Reverend Trish, Marcus thought. He opened the car door and stepped into the Vegas heat. It hit him like a wall, dry, intense, relentless. He crossed the street and walked toward the church. The Reverend looked up as he approached. Her face was kind but cautious. "Can I help you?" "Reverend Okafor." Marcus extended his hand. "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a journalist. I'd like to talk to you about what happened here 3 nights ago." The kindness in her face didn't disappear, but something shifted, a guardedness. "I don't talk to reporters, I understand. But the whole world is asking questions. They're making up stories, spreading rumors. Wouldn't you rather have someone tell the truth?" Reverend Trish set down her box and looked at him carefully. Really looked at him. Like she could see past his words into something deeper. "The truth isn't always meant for everyone, Mr. Chen." "What does that mean?" "It means some things are between a soul and God." She picked up her box again. "I'm sorry you came all this way, but I can't help you." She started walking toward the van. But Marcus followed. "Please, just 5 minutes. I promise I'll be respectful." "I believe you will," she said, loading the box into the van. "But that doesn't change anything. What happened in this church that night, it's sacred. I won't cheapen it for headlines." Marcus felt frustration rising. He'd flown across 3 states for this. Elon Musk is telling people his whole worldview changed. Don't you think the world deserves to know why? Reverend Trish closed the van door and turned to face him. "Mr. Chen, when something truly holy happens, talking about it too soon is like picking up a butterfly before its wings dry. You might mean well, but you'll damage something beautiful." So something did happen. She smiled sadly. Something always happens when broken people bring their pain to God. That's not news. That's just church. But this was different. "Yes," she said quietly. "It was different." Then she walked back toward the church building. Marcus stood in the parking lot, sweating in the afternoon sun, feeling like he'd just lost the first round of a fight he didn't understand. But he'd been a journalist long enough to know when someone was hiding something. And Reverend Trish was definitely hiding something. He walked back to his car and sat inside with the air conditioning blasting. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Reverend won't talk. Protective, scared, or respectful." She confirmed something different happened. 7 witnesses, need to find the other 6. His phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Sarah. It was a notification from Twitter. The video of Musk had been shared 3 million times now. The hashtag Vegas Miracle was trending worldwide. Marcus scrolled through the comments. Some people were mocking Musk. Others were celebrating his conversion. Many were asking the same question Marcus was asking: what did he see? One comment caught his attention. A user named A Real Don Cross had written, "I was there that night. What we saw can't be explained. It can only be believed." Marcus clicked on the profile. Donovan Cross, Las Vegas, Nevada. The bio said, paramedic, veteran, believer. Marcus's heart beat faster. He'd found witness number 2. He clicked the message button and typed, "Mr. Cross, I'm a journalist investigating what happened at International Church. Would you be willing to talk? I'm in Las Vegas right now." He hit send and waited. 5 minutes passed. 10. Marcus was about to give up when his phone buzzed. The message said, "Meet me at the Egg and I on Flamingo Road. 7 p.m. Come alone." Marcus checked the time. It was 3:15 p.m. He had almost 4 hours to wait. He looked back at the church one more time. The building sat quiet in the afternoon heat, keeping its secrets. But Marcus had learned something important today. Whatever happened in that church had affected multiple people deeply, and at least one of them was willing to talk. Marcus started the car and pulled away from the curb. As he drove, he passed a billboard advertising a magic show on the strip. "See the impossible," it promised in huge letters. Maya's voice echoed again. "Everything here is fake, Mark. Except the people who come here hoping for real miracles." For the first time in 2 years, Marcus wondered if his sister had been right. Maybe some people came Vegas looking for real miracles. And maybe, just maybe, sometimes they found them. But Marcus still didn't believe in miracles. He believed in facts, evidence, and logical explanations. He would find out what really happened in that church. Even if the truth destroyed the story everyone wanted to believe, Marcus spent the next 3 hours doing what he always did when he arrived in a new city for a story he walked. Not on the strip, where tourists crowded the sidewalks taking selfies in front of fake landmarks. Marcus walked the real streets, the ones where actual people lived. He passed elementary schools with chain-link fences and faded playgrounds. He passed botnaticas with candles in the windows and hand-painted signs in Spanish. He passed apartment complexes, where laundry hung on balconies and children played in patches of brown grass. This was the Las Vegas that Elon Musk's millions couldn't buy. The city behind the curtain. Marcus stopped at a corner store and bought a bottle of water. The clerk, an elderly man with kind eyes, noticed Marcus looking at a community bulletin board near the door. "You looking for something specific?" the man asked in accented English. Marcus pointed to a flyer advertising services at the International Church. "You know this church?" The man's face lit up. "Oh yes. Reverend Trish. She is wonderful. My wife goes every Sunday. They help many people. Food, clothes, sometimes money for rent." He leaned closer. "You heard about what happened there? The thing with Elon Musk?" "Not just him." The man shook his head, eyes wide. "My wife's friend Esperanza. She was there too. She came home different. Happy for the first time since her son died." Marcus pulled out his notebook. "Esperanza? What's her last name?" But the man stepped back, suddenly cautious. "I shouldn't say. Esperanza is private person. Very sad story." "I understand," Marcus said gently. He'd learned long ago that pushing too hard made people close up. "I'm just trying to understand what happened." The man studied Marcus for a long moment. "You believe in miracles?" "I believe in facts." "Facts." The man smiled sadly. "Sometimes facts are not enough to understand God." Marcus paid for his water and left. As he walked back toward his rental car, he checked the time, 5:30 p.m. Still 90 minutes before his meeting with Donovan Croft. He drove to his hotel, a budget place on Boulder Highway, nothing fancy, and checked in. The room smelled like cleaning products and old carpet. Marcus sat on the bed and opened his laptop. He searched for Esperanza Paz. Las Vegas son died, but found nothing useful. He tried different combinations, scrolling through obituaries and news articles. Finally, he found something. A brief mention in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. From 2 months ago. Daniel Reyes, 38, was killed during a robbery at the Bellagio Hotel and Casino on February 14, 25. Reyes, a dealer at the casino for 15 years, was shot when he attempted to stop the robbery. He is survived by his mother, Esperanza Reyes, and sister, Carmen Reyes Martinez. Marcus read the article 3 times. Daniel Reyes had been a hero. He tried to stop a robbery and died for it. And his mother, Esperanza, had been at the church that night. Witness number 3. Marcus looked at the photo accompanying the article. It showed Daniel in his Bellagio uniform, smiling at the camera. He had a kind face, warm eyes, the kind of person you'd trust immediately. Marcus thought of his own sister. Maya had been like that too. Immediately trustworthy. Immediately likable. People gravitated toward her warmth. He closed the laptop and checked the time again. 6:15 p.m. Close enough. He drove to the Egg and I, a small breakfast restaurant on Flamingo Road. The parking lot was half full. Through the window, Marcus could see families eating pancakes and older couples sharing coffee. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that a few miles away something impossible might have happened in a small church. Marcus went inside and found a booth near the back. A waitress brought him a menu, but he waved it away. "Just coffee, thanks. I'm waiting for someone." At exactly 7:00 p.m., a man walked through the door. He was tall, maybe 40 years old, with short dark hair going gray at the temples. He wore jeans and a Las Vegas Fire Department t-shirt. His eyes scanned the restaurant carefully before landing on Marcus. There was something about his movements, precise, controlled, that suggested military training. Marcus raised his hand slightly. The man nodded and walked over. "Donovan Cross?" Marcus asked. "Don." The man slid into the booth across from Marcus. "Nobody calls me Donovan except my mother." They shook hands. Don's grip was firm but not aggressive. The waitress came back and Don ordered coffee black. For a moment, neither man spoke. Don stared at the table, his jaw working like he was chewing words before speaking them. "I shouldn't be here," Don finally said. "I told myself I wouldn't talk to reporters." "Why did you?" "Because the lies are spreading faster than the truth." Don looked up, his eyes tired. "People are saying Elon Musk had a mental breakdown, that he was on drugs, that it was all publicity. None of that is true." "What is true?" Don's coffee arrived. He wrapped his hands around the cup like he was cold, even though the restaurant was warm. "You believe in God, Marcus." "I don't know what I believe anymore." Don nodded like that was a good answer. "Fair enough. I'm going to tell you a story. You can believe it or not. But I'm only going to tell it once, and then I'm done. No follow-up interviews. No TV appearances. Agreed?" "Agreed." Don took a long sip of coffee. Then he began. "March 14th. That was 3 days ago, but it feels like 3 years." He paused. "I'm a paramedic. Been doing it for 18 years. Before that I was Army medic there too. I've seen a lot of death. A lot." Marcus listened without interrupting. "That night, I had a call on I-15, northbound near Speedway Boulevard. Car accident. A sedan hit a semi-truck at 70 miles an hour." Don's voice stayed steady, but his knuckles whitened around the coffee cup. "Family of 4, parents and 2 kids, boy and a girl, maybe 6 and 8 years old." He stopped, took another sip. "They were already gone when we arrived. All of them. Dad died instantly. Mom died in the ambulance. The kids," he shook his head. "The kids held hands the whole time. Even after they were gone, their hands were locked together." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. He knew that feeling, the helplessness of watching someone die and being unable to stop it. "We finished around 11:00 p.m. Don continued. "My partner drove us back to the station, but I couldn't go home. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop seeing those kids' hands." He looked at Marcus directly. "You ever have a moment where you question everything you believe?" "Yes," Marcus said quietly. "I have. I went to the church because I didn't know where else to go. I've been going there for about a year, since my divorce. Reverend Trish, she's good people. Real. Not like the megachurch pastors who drive Mercedes and talk about prosperity." "What time did you get to the church?" "I signed the visitor log at 11:43 p.m. The church is usually locked by then, but Reverend Trish leaves it open on Thursday nights for people who need a quiet place to pray." Don stared into his coffee. "I sat in the back pew. The lights were dim. I was alone. I put my head in my hands and I asked God if he was even there, how he could let those children die." "Did you get an answer?" Don smiled sadly. "Not the way you think. But yes, I got an answer." "What happened?" "At 11:47 p.m., the door opened. I looked up and Elon Musk walked in." Marcus leaned forward. "You're sure it was him?" "Marcus, I know what Elon Musk looks like. Everyone knows what he looks like." Don shook his head. "But this wasn't the Elon Musk from TV. This was a man who looked haunted, lost. His clothes were expensive, but wrinkled. His hair was a mess, and his eyes." Don paused. "His eyes looked like he'd been crying for hours." "Did he see you?" "No. He went straight to the front, knelt at the altar, started talking, but I couldn't hear what he was saying at first. Then his voice got louder. He was pleading with God about someone named Nevada." Marcus wrote quickly in his notebook. Nevada. That name again, like his deceased infant son. He kept saying, please. I can't lose another Nevada, please. Don's voice softened. I realized he was praying for someone he loved. Someone who was dying or maybe already dead. What did you do? Nothing at first. I just sat there watching this billionaire genius break down in a church at midnight, begging God for help. Don paused. Then I stood up and walked toward him. I don't know why. Something pushed me. What did you say? I said, brother, whatever you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone. Marcus stopped writing and looked at Don. What did he say? He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time, like he'd forgotten anyone else existed. Then he said, my niece. She overdosed. They took her to the hospital. He couldn't say the word. But I knew what he meant. She was dead. That's what I thought he was saying, yes. Don nodded. I told him I was sorry. I told him about the family I just lost on the highway. I told him sometimes God feels absent. But maybe he's closer than we think. The waitress came by with more coffee, but both men waved her away. Then what happened? Marcus asked. Reverend Trish came in. She wasn't alone. Don's voice changed, became quieter, more careful. There were others with her. And they were carrying someone. Marcus's pen stopped moving. Who? Don looked directly at Marcus. This is where you're going to think I'm crazy. Try me. They brought in a girl. Young. Maybe 19 or 20. Don searched for words. She wasn't moving. Wasn't breathing. Her skin had that color, that gray-blue color. I'm a paramedic, Marcus. I know what death looks like. Who else was there? Reverend Trish. An older Hispanic woman. I found out later her name is Esperanza. A younger guy, early 20s, looked like he'd been crying. And a woman in scrubs. She was a doctor from UMC Hospital. Don counted on his fingers. That was 5 of us, plus Elon Musk. 6 total. You said 7 witnesses. Don's eyes shifted away. I can't talk about the 7th. Why not? Because I promised. He looked back at Marcus. The 7th person wasn't ready to be part of this story. Maybe they never will be. Marcus felt a strange prickle on the back of his neck. Something about the way Don said that. Protective. Almost sad. Okay, Marcus said. 6 witnesses then. What happened next? Don was quiet for a long moment. Outside the window, the sun was setting, painting the Vegas sky orange and purple. The city's lights were beginning to glow. You asked me earlier what happened, Don finally said, but you didn't ask the right question. What's the right question? The right question is, what did we see? Don stood up, dropping a $10 bill on the table. I've told you everything I can tell you without showing you. And I can't show you unless you meet the others. The other witnesses. Some of them. Don pulled a piece of paper from his pocket and slid it across the table. This is Esperanza's address. She lives downtown. If she'll talk to you, if she trusts you, then maybe you'll understand. Marcus picked up the paper. An address on Lewis Avenue. Will she talk to me? I called her before I came here. Told her about you. She said. Don smiled slightly. She said, if you come to her with an honest heart, she'll tell you her part of the story. And if I don't have an honest heart, then you'll waste her time and yours. Don turned to leave. Then stopped. One more thing, Marcus. When you talk to Esperanza, when you hear what she says, remember that some things can't be explained. They can only be experienced. He walked out of the restaurant, leaving Marcus alone with his notebook and a slip of paper with an address. Marcus sat for a long time, staring at that address. The waitress came by twice, asking if he wanted anything else. He finally ordered eggs and toast, but when the food came, he barely touched it. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Any updates? Marcus typed. Found 2 witnesses. They're saying something impossible happened. Meeting 3rd witness tomorrow. Sarah's response came quickly. Define impossible. Marcus stared at his phone. How could he explain what Don had implied? That Elon Musk's niece had been dead, brought to a church, and then what, came back to life? That was impossible. That was a fairy tale. I need more time to verify, he texted back. You have 48 hours. Then I'm running the story with or without verification. Marcus paid his bill and walked out into the Vegas night. The strip glowed in the distance. All those fake buildings lit up like they were the most important things in the world. But Marcus drove the opposite direction, toward the quiet neighborhoods where real people lived real lives. He drove past the International Church. The lights were off now, the parking lot empty. Whatever happened there 3 nights ago, the building itself revealed nothing. Marcus continued driving, not really going anywhere, just moving. He passed the Bellagio, where Daniel Reyes had died trying to stop a robbery. He passed the hospital where Nevada Musk had supposedly been pronounced dead. He passed a dozen small churches, each one promising salvation, redemption, hope. Finally, he returned to his hotel. In his room, he opened his laptop and stared at the notes he'd taken. 7 witnesses. Nevada Musk overdose. Brought to church dead. Elon Musk praying for first time in years. Something impossible happened. All witnesses changed by what they saw. Marcus thought about his sister Maya. In her final weeks, she'd talked about heaven like it was real. Like she'd see their parents again. Like death wasn't the end. Marcus had smiled and held her hand and said nothing. Because he didn't believe. He believed in chemistry and biology and the cold fact that when your brain stopped working, you stopped existing. Maya had looked at him with those knowing eyes and said, "Mark, you're so smart. But someday you're gonna see something that science can't explain. And on that day, I hope you're brave enough to believe it anyway." He'd thought she was talking nonsense, the morphine making her confused. But now, sitting in a cheap hotel room in Las Vegas, Marcus wondered if his sister had somehow known this moment was coming. Tomorrow he would meet Esperanza Reyes, a mother who'd lost her son, a woman who'd been in that church, a woman who'd witnessed something impossible. Marcus closed his laptop and lay back on the bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling. Somewhere in this city of illusions, something real had happened. And Marcus was going to find out what even if the truth destroyed the story everyone wanted to believe. Marcus woke at 5:30 a.m. to his phone buzzing. Another text from Sarah. The story is exploding. Musk hasn't made any public statements since the video. Get me something solid. He showered, dressed, and was in his car by 6:15. The address Dawn had given him was for an apartment building on Lewis Avenue, not far from downtown. Marcus decided to drive by first, see the neighborhood in daylight, maybe find a coffee shop where he could think. The sun was just rising over the mountains, painting the desert sky pink and gold. Marcus drove through streets that were still quiet, past houses with bars on the windows and cars parked on brown lawns. This wasn't tourist Vegas. This was working-class Vegas, where people got up early to cook and clean and deal cards for people who had money to waste. He found Lewis Avenue, a street lined with older apartment buildings, most of them 2 or 3 stories tall. Esperanza's building was painted pale yellow with white trim. A small garden out front had been carefully maintained, with desert plants and a few flowering bushes that somehow survived the harsh climate. Marcus parked across the street and waited. He didn't want to knock on her door too early. He pulled out his phone and searched for more information about Daniel Reyes. He found Daniel's social media accounts, still active, though now they were filled with memorial messages from friends. The photos showed a man who loved his family. Daniel at a backyard barbecue with his arm around his mother. Daniel wearing his Bellagio uniform, proud of his work. Daniel volunteering at a food bank serving meals to homeless people. One photo made Marcus stop scrolling. It showed Daniel and an elderly man, his father probably standing in front of the International Church. The caption read, "Dad's favorite place. Miss you every day, Poppy. See you in heaven." So the Reyes family had a connection to that church. That's probably why Esperanza went there after Daniel died. Marcus checked the time. 7:45 a.m. Reasonable enough. He got out of the car and walked to the building. The front door was unlocked. Inside, a narrow hallway led to a staircase. The walls were clean but old, painted a light green that had faded over the years. Somewhere above, he heard a television playing and the sound of children getting ready for school. Apartment 2C. Second floor. End of the hall. Marcus climbed the stairs and found the door. He could hear music inside, something in Spanish, soft and melodic. He knocked 3 times, gently. The music stopped. Footsteps approached. The door opened. The woman who stood before him was small, maybe 5 feet tall with gray hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a simple floral dress and slippers. Her face was lined with years of hard work and recent grief, but her eyes were clear and calm. "Mrs. Reyes?" Marcus asked. "My name is Marcus Chen. I think Donovan Cross called you about me." "See. Yes." Dawn called. Her English was accented but clear. She studied Marcus for a moment, the way Reverend Trish had studied him yesterday, like she was looking past his face into something deeper. "You want to know about the church?" "Yes, ma'am, if you're willing to talk to me." She nodded slowly. "Don said you have an honest heart. I hope he is right." She stepped back from the door. "Come in." The apartment was small, but immaculate. The living room had a sofa covered with a hand-crocheted blanket, a coffee table with fresh flowers, and a bookshelf filled with photos. The smell of coffee and cinnamon hung in the air. "Sit, please," Esperanza said, gesturing to the sofa. "You want coffee? That would be wonderful." "Thank you." She disappeared into the kitchen. Marcus sat on the sofa and looked at the photos on the bookshelf. Daniel as a baby. Daniel on his first day of school. Daniel graduating from high school. Daniel with his father. Daniel with his mother. A whole life in photographs. And on the top shelf, 2 framed photos draped with rosary beads. One showed a man in his 60s with kind eyes and a warm smile. The other showed Daniel in his Bellagio uniform. Both photos had small candles beside them, recently lit. Esperanza returned with 2 cups of coffee and a plate of pan dulce, Mexican sweetbread. She sat in a chair across from Marcus. "You see my son," she said, looking at Daniel's photo. "Handsome, no? Good boy. Always good." "I'm very sorry for your loss," Marcus said quietly. "Everyone is sorry." Esperanza sipped her coffee. "But sorry doesn't bring him back. Sorry doesn't stop the pain." She looked at Marcus. "You lost someone too. I see it in your face." Marcus was surprised. "How can you tell? When you have this pain, you recognize it in others." She set down her cup. "Who did you lose?" "My sister, Maya. 2 years ago. Cancer." Esperanza nodded. "Cancer took my husband. Diabetes, the doctors said, but really it was cancer too. It ate him piece by piece." She was quiet for a moment. "And then my Daniel, shot like an animal." "For what? For money? For things?" Her voice cracked slightly, but she didn't cry. "I buried my husband in January. I buried my son in February. 2 months, 2 funerals, 2 holes in my heart." Marcus didn't know what to say. What could anyone say to that kind of pain? "After Daniel died, I couldn't sleep," Esperanza continued. "Every night I lay in bed and see his face. See him as a baby, as a boy, as a man. See him dead on the ground." She closed her eyes briefly. "The church is close. I could walk there. So every night I walked to the church and prayed. I asked God why. Why take my husband? Why take my son? Why leave me alone?" "Did you get an answer?" "Not the way I wanted." She looked at Marcus directly. "But yes, I got answer." On March 14th, Marcus pulled out his notebook. "Can you tell me what happened that night?" Esperanza stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun had fully risen, and the street was coming to life. "That night, I went to church at 10:30. The same time I went every night. I sat in the front row, where I always sit. I prayed the rosary. I talked to my husband, to my son, like they could hear me." She turned back to Marcus. Then Reverend Trish came in. Maybe 11:30, I don't know exactly. She wasn't alone. There was a young man with her, Connor. I know Connor from church. He used to have problems with drugs, but he got clean. Now he helps other people get clean. What did they want? They didn't want nothing from me. They carried someone. A girl. Young, maybe 19. Hispanic, like my Daniel. Esperanza's voice dropped to almost a whisper. I could see right away she was dead. A mother knows what death looks like. Marcus wrote quickly. "Are you certain she was dead?" "Mr. Chen, I washed my husband's body before they took him to the funeral home. I kissed my son's cold face in the coffin. I know dead." She returned to her chair. This girl was dead. What did Reverend Trish say? She said, Esperanza, we need your prayers. She said the girl's name was Nevada. She overdosed on drugs. The hospital couldn't save her. Esperanza picked up her rosary beads from the coffee table. They laid her on the floor in front of the altar, right where I pray every night. Then what happened? A doctor came, a woman, Asian, wearing hospital clothes. She checked the girl, the pulse, the breathing, everything doctors do. She looked at Reverend Trish and shook her head. No pulse, no breathing, nothing. Marcus felt a chill despite the warm apartment. Why didn't they keep her at the hospital? The young man, Connor. He begged them to bring her to the church. He said God told him to pray for her there. The doctor, she said, it was crazy, but she came anyway. Esperanza fingered the rosary beads. Then Don arrived. You met Don. Yes. The paramedic. He came to pray because of something bad that happened to him. He saw the girl and he knew she was gone too. How many people were in the church at that point? Esperanza counted on her fingers. Me, Reverend Trish, Connor, the doctor, Don. 5 people. And Nevada on the floor, dead. Don said there were 7 witnesses total. Yes. Esperanza nodded. Then Elon Musk came. Marcus leaned forward. Tell me about that. What was he like? He came through the door like a man running from fire. His eyes were wild. When he saw the girl on the floor, he made a sound. Esperanza pressed her hand to her chest, like an animal in pain. He fell on his knees beside her and he touched her face and he said, Nevada, no, 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 please God, no. So the girl was his niece? That's what I learned later. But in that moment, I just saw a man destroyed by love, by loss. Esperanza's eyes grew distant, remembering. He looked at Reverend Trish and said, Can you bring her back? Can God bring her back? And Reverend Trish, she said very quiet, I don't have that power. Only God has that power. Marcus's pen moved across the page, capturing every detail. Elon Musk, he said. Then ask him. Please ask him. I'll give anything, everything. Just ask him. Esperanza paused. I never seen a man beg like that. Not even my husband when he was dying. This was a man who had everything in the world, and none of it mattered. What did you do? I stood up. I walked to them. I said we should pray. Esperanza smiled sadly. What else can you do when death comes? You pray. And did you? All of you? Yes. All 6 of us. We made a circle around Nevada's body. She closed her eyes, seeing it again. Connor. He started. He prayed out loud, talking to God like God was standing right there. He said, Father, you know this girl. You love her more than we can understand. Please don't let her die without knowing she's loved. Esperanza opened her eyes. Then Don prayed. He prayed for the family he lost that night on the highway. He prayed for Nevada. He prayed for all of us who were hurting. The doctor. She didn't pray with words. She just stood there with tears on her face. Reverend Trish prayed in her language. Yoruba, I think. Beautiful words I couldn't understand. What about Elon Musk? He didn't know how to pray. I could see it. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Esperanza's voice softened. So I taught him. I said, just talk to God like you talk to someone you love. And he did. He said, God, if you're there, if you're real, please help her. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to ask. But please, please. Marcus realized he'd stopped writing. He was just listening. Caught in the story. How long did you pray? I don't know. Time felt strange. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe an hour. Esperanza stood again, restless with the memory. And then, she stopped. Walked to the window. Stood there silently. Mrs. Reyes? Marcus prompted gently. What happened then? When she turned back, there were tears on her face. You're gonna think I'm a crazy old woman. I won't. I promise. The 7th person arrived. Marcus's heart beat faster. Who was the 7th person? But Esperanza shook her head. That person asked not to be named. Made all of us promise. So I won't break my promise. She wiped her tears. But I will tell you this. When that 7th person came into the church and saw what we were doing, They fell to their knees and prayed harder than anyone, like they were praying for their own life. Marcus wanted to push, to demand the name, but he remembered what Dawn had said. The seventh person wasn't ready to be part of this story. Okay, Marcus said. What happened after the seventh person arrived? Esperanza sat back down. She picked up her coffee cup but didn't drink. Just held it, like she needed something to anchor her. We prayed together. 7 people in a circle around a dead girl, and then she paused, searching for words. Mr. Chen, have you ever felt God in a room? I don't think so. I have felt God many times in my life. When my children were born, when my husband held my hand in the hospital, when Father Miguel blessed my house. She looked at Marcus intensely. But that night, God wasn't just in the room. God was the room. The air felt thick with it, heavy, like the whole church was holding its breath. Marcus wrote, God was the room. And then Nevada took a breath. Marcus's pen stopped. What? She took a breath. Her chest moved. Her mouth opened. She breathed. Esperanza's tears flowed freely now. The doctor, she checked a pulse. She said, oh my God, she has a pulse. Don, he said, that's impossible. But Connor, he laughed and cried and said, thank you, Jesus, thank you. Are you telling me Marcus struggled to form the words? Are you saying Nevada Musk came back to life? I'm telling you what I saw with my own eyes. Esperanza set down her cup. Nevada opened her eyes. She looked around at all of us. She was confused, scared. Elon Musk picked her up and held her like she was a baby. And he cried. Oh, Mr. Chen. How he cried. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. This was impossible. Medically impossible. People didn't come back from death. Not like this. What happened to Nevada after that? The doctor wanted to take her back to the hospital. But Nevada said no. She said she felt fine. Better than fine. Esperanza smiled through her tears. She said she felt loved. That's the word she used. I feel so loved. And then we all sat together in the church until the sun came up. We didn't talk much. We just sat there, knowing we had seen something impossible. Something holy. Esperanza looked at Daniel's photo again. When the sun rose, we left. But we were all different. Changed. Marcus flipped back through his notes. The story was consistent with what Don had told him. The timeline, the people present, even the specific details. Mrs. Reyes, you said 7 people witnessed this. Can you tell me anything about the 7th person? Anything at all? Esperanza was quiet for a long moment. The 7th person was there because God wanted them there. That's all I can say. Can you at least tell me if they're still in Las Vegas? She smiled mysteriously. Maybe closer than you think. Before Marcus could ask what that meant, Esperanza stood. I've told you what I can tell you. Now you must decide what to believe. Marcus stood too. Thank you for talking to me. I know this isn't easy. Mr. Chen, she walked him to the door, but stopped before opening it. You asked me earlier if I got an answer to my prayers. Why God took my husband and my son. Did you? Yes. That night, I understood. She looked at him with those clear, calm eyes. God didn't take them from me. Death took them. But God gives life. Even when death thinks it won. She opened the door. Nevada died. But love brought her back. That's what I believe now. Love is stronger than death. Marcus stepped into the hallway. He turned back to ask one more question. But Esperanza spoke first. Dawn gave you my name. I give you Connor's number. She handed him a slip of paper. Connor Wade. He's the one who prayed first. He's the believer. Maybe he can help you understand better than I can. Marcus took the paper. Thank you. One more thing. Esperanza touched his arm gently. Your sister Maya, she's not gone. Not really. Love doesn't end when the heart stops. Marcus felt unexpected tears sting his eyes. How did you know her name? Esperanza just smiled. God knows all our names, Mr. Chen. And the people we love, they whisper those names to him. She closed the door, leaving Marcus standing in the hallway, holding Connor Wade's phone number and trying to make sense of everything he just heard. A dead girl brought back to life by prayer. 7 witnesses who all told the same impossible story. And somewhere in Las Vegas, a 7th person who held a secret Marcus desperately needed to know. He walked down the stairs and out into the morning sun. His phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah. Marcus stared at his phone. What could he possibly tell her? That he'd interviewed 2 witnesses who claimed they saw a resurrection? That Elon Musk had begged God for help and God had answered? She'd think he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. He got in his car and sat there, engine off, trying to think clearly. But one sentence kept echoing in his mind. Something Esperanza had said. Maybe closer than you think. The 7th witness. Closer than he thought. Marcus pulled out his notebook and reviewed his notes from both interviews. Don and Esperanza had both protected the 7th person's identity. Both implied that person had their own reasons for being at the church that night. And then Marcus remembered something Don had said at the diner. The 7th person wasn't ready to be part of this story. Maybe they never will be. Past tense. Wasn't ready. Not isn't ready. Like something had changed since that night. Marcus looked at Connor Wade's phone number. The believer, Esperanza had called him. The one who prayed first. The one who refused to let Nevada stay dead. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed. The phone rang 3 times. Then a young man's voice answered, "Hello? Is this Connor Wade?" "Yeah. Who's this?" "My name is Marcus Chen. I'm a journalist. Esperanza Reyes gave me your number. I'm investigating what happened at the International Church on March 14th. There was a long pause. Then, where are you right now?" "Sitting outside Mrs. Reyes's apartment." "Stay there. I'll be there in 15 minutes. We need to talk." The line went dead. Marcus sat in his car watching the morning unfold on Lewis Avenue. Children walked to school. Adults headed to work. Normal life continuing, unaware that somewhere in this city, 7 people carried the weight of an impossible truth. 14 minutes later, an old Honda Civic pulled up and parked behind Marcus's rental car. A young man got out, mid-20s, thin, with short blonde hair and tattoos covering his arms. He wore jeans and a t-shirt that said "One day at a time." Connor Wade walked to Marcus's window and knocked. Marcus got out of the car. "You're the journalist," Connor said. It wasn't a question. "Yes." Connor studied him with sharp blue eyes that had seen too much for someone so young. "Dylan called me. Said you seemed genuine. Esperanza called me too. Said you lost your sister 2 years ago. Then you know what it's like to pray for a miracle and not get one." Marcus felt those words hit his chest like a punch. "Yes." Connor nodded. "Good, because I'm going to tell you about the night I prayed for a miracle and did get one. And then you're going to have to decide if you're brave enough to believe it." Connor didn't want to talk in the car or on the street. He led Marcus to a small park 3 blocks away, just a patch of grass with a few benches and a playground where toddlers climbed on faded equipment while their mothers watched. They sat on a bench in the shade of a scraggly tree. Connor pulled out a pack of gum and offered a piece to Marcus, who declined. "Helps me stay calm," Connor explained, unwrapping a piece for himself. "Used to smoke. Can't do that anymore." "How long have you been clean?" Marcus asked. 3 years, 2 months, 18 days. Connor said it automatically, like a prayer he'd repeated so many times it became muscle memory. "Got clean at 21. Almost didn't make it to 22. Marcus pulled out his notebook. "Can I?" "Yeah. Write whatever you want. Just get it right." Connor leaned back against the bench, his face tilted toward the sun. "You want to know about Nevada? I want to know about that night. All of it. Okay. But you need to understand where it starts. It doesn't start on March 14th. It starts 2 months before that, when Nevada walked into her first NA meeting." Connor watched the children playing for a moment before continuing. "Narcotics Anonymous. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday at a community center in Henderson. I volunteer there, help set up chairs, make coffee, sometimes lead discussions. I do it because people did it for me when I was trying to get clean." "And that's where you met Nevada?" "January 8th. I remember because it was freezing that night. Weird for Vegas. She came in late, looking scared, sat in the back, didn't talk." Connor smiled slightly. "After the meeting I went to her, said, 'You came back. That's the hardest part.' She started crying right there." Marcus wrote quickly, capturing the details. She told me her name was Nevada. Just Nevada. Didn't tell me her last name for 3 weeks. Connor chewed his gum thoughtfully. She was 19 but looked younger. Skinny, tired, ashamed. She'd been using heroin for 8 months, started with pills after a knee surgery, then moved to harder stuff when the pills weren't enough. Did she talk about her family? Not at first. Addicts don't talk about family early on. Too much pain, too much guilt. Connor looked at Marcus. But after a few weeks, she told me. She said her uncle was famous. Really famous. She wouldn't say who. Just that he had a lot of money and a lot of important work, and she felt invisible next to all that importance. Marcus felt a sharp recognition. Maya had said something similar once during her illness. Everyone's so busy changing the world. Nobody has time to just sit with me. Did Nevada stay clean? Marcus asked. Connor's face darkened. For 6 weeks. Yeah. She came to every meeting, got a sponsor, a woman named Rita, who's been clean for 12 years. Nevada even started volunteering at a rehab facility on Bonanza Road. She was doing good, really good. He paused. Then her father called. Her father. Kimball Musk. That's when I put it together. Nevada Musk. Niece of Elon Musk. Connor shook his head. Her dad wanted her to come home to Colorado. Said she'd been gone long enough. Said the family needed her. But Nevada knew she wasn't ready. The doctors at the rehab facility told her it was too soon. She needed more time. More support. What happened? She went anyway. Family pressure, you know. She flew to Colorado on February 28th. Was supposed to stay for a week. Connor's jaw tightened. She lasted 3 days. Her cousins were partying, drinking. Someone had cocaine. Nevada called me on March 2nd, crying, said she almost used, said she couldn't stay there. Did she come back to Vegas? Yeah. But something changed. She was different when she got back, more fragile, more scared. She came to the Thursday meeting on March 6th, but she was shaking the whole time. Rita tried to talk to her after, but Nevada left fast. Connor crushed the gum wrapper in his fist. I should have followed her. Should have made sure she got home safe. You couldn't have known. That's what everyone says. Doesn't make it true. Connor looked at Marcus directly. Nevada stopped coming to meetings. Stopped answering her phone. I went to her apartment on March 10th. She lived in a studio near UNLV. Landlord said she hadn't been home in days. You went looking for her. For 4 days straight. I checked every homeless shelter, every known drug spot, every place addicts go when they relapse. Connor's voice cracked slightly. I found her on March 14th at 10:15 p.m. behind a 7-Eleven on Las Vegas Boulevard. She was unconscious, barely breathing. There was a needle on the ground next to her. Marcus stopped writing. What did you do? Called 911. Started CPR. The ambulance came in 6 minutes. Connor's hands trembled. I rode with her to UMC. The whole way I prayed. I said, God, please, not this girl. Not this time. You brought her into my life for a reason. Don't let her die. What happened at the hospital? They worked on her for 23 minutes. I sat in the waiting room, praying, texting Rita, texting everyone I knew to pray. Connor wiped his eyes quickly. Then Dr. Tanaka came out. I'll never forget her face. She said, I'm sorry. We did everything we could, she's gone. Marcus felt the familiar ache of those words. He'd heard them too, about Maya. We did everything we could. I didn't believe her. Connor said. I stood up and I said, no. Take me to her. Dr. Tanaka said I couldn't, but I pushed past her. I went into the room where they'd taken Nevada's body, and she was on a table, covered with a sheet. I pulled it back and I saw her face. Connor's voice dropped to a whisper. She was gray. Blue lips. Eyes closed. Dead. Completely dead. A child's laughter rang out from the playground. A strange counterpoint to the darkness of Connor's story. I stood there looking at her, and I thought about my own overdose 3 years ago. How I'd almost died. How someone had found me and saved me. How I'd been given a second chance. Connor looked at his hands, and I thought, why did I get a second chance? And Nevada doesn't. Why did God let me live? What did you do? I put my hand on her shoulder and I said out loud, God, I don't understand your plan, but I'm asking you, begging you, bring her back. Let her know she's loved. Let her know her life matters. Connor smiled sadly. Dr. Tanaka came in and told me I needed to leave. She was gentle about it, but firm. Said Nevada's family had been contacted. Said they were arranging for the body. Did you leave? I started to, but then I heard this voice. Connor looked at Marcus. Not out loud. Inside my head. Clear as anything. It said, take her to the church. Marcus's pen paused on the page. Take her to the church? I know how it sounds. Crazy, right? But the voice was so clear, so certain. Connor leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I went back to Dr. Tanaka and I said, I need to take her body to a church. I need to pray for her there. And Dr. Tanaka said, that's not possible. There are procedures, protocols. But I kept asking. I said, please, just for an hour, I'll bring her back. And she agreed? Not at first. But I wouldn't leave. I sat in that room with Nevada's body, and I prayed out loud. Dr. Tanaka stood in the doorway, watching me. After 10 minutes, she said, which church? Connor shook his head in wonder. To this day, I don't know why she said yes. She told me later she's not even religious. But something made her agree. What time was this? About 11:20 p.m. Dr. Tanaka helped me carry Nevada to her car. She drove her own car, not an ambulance. We wrapped Nevada in a hospital blanket. Anyone who saw us would have thought we were just helping someone who was sick. Connor paused. I called Reverend Trish on the way, told her what happened. She said, bring her. I'll be there. Marcus wrote furiously, trying to capture every detail. We got to the church at 11:33 p.m. Reverend Trish was waiting outside with the door open. We carried Nevada inside and laid her on the floor in front of the altar. Connor's voice grew stronger, more certain. And that's when I saw Esperanza. She was already there, praying in the front row like she did every night. When she saw us carrying Nevada, she stood up. She didn't ask questions. She just said, let me help. Connor smiled. That's the kind of woman Esperanza is. Sees someone in need, she helps. What happened next? Dr. Tanaka checked Nevada again, pulse, breathing, pupil response. I watched her do it. She was thorough, professional. When she finished, she looked at all of us and said, there's no life here. I'm sorry. Connor's hands clenched, and I said, not yet, but there will be. Marcus looked up from his notebook. You believed that? Even though she was dead? I had faith. It's different than belief. Connor stood and walked a few steps away, then back. Belief is thinking something might be true. Faith is knowing something is true even when you can't see it yet. What's the difference? Belief can die. Faith can't. Connor sat back down. Then Don arrived. The paramedic. Yeah. He came in looking destroyed. Said he'd just lost a family in an accident. He saw Nevada on the floor and he knew immediately what he was looking at. He's a paramedic. He knows death. Connor looked at Marcus. He sat down with us. Didn't question it. Just sat. And then Elon Musk arrived. Connor nodded slowly. 11:47 p.m. I'll never forget the sound of that door opening. We all turned and saw him standing there. I recognized him instantly. And I understood this was Nevada's famous uncle. What was he like? Broken. Completely broken. Connor's voice softened with empathy. He saw Nevada on the floor and he made this sound like all the air went out of him. He ran to her, fell on his knees, touched her face. He said her name over and over. Nevada. 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 Then he looked at Reverend Trish and he said, can you save her? Can your God save her? What did Reverend Trish say? She said, I can't save anyone. But we can pray. Connor smiled slightly. And that's what we did. All 6 of us, me, Esperanza, Don, Dr. Tanaka, Reverend Trish, and Elon Musk. We made a circle around Nevada's body. Wait, Marcus held up his hand. You said 7 witnesses. That's only 6. Connor's expression changed, became guarded. The 7th person came later. Who? I can't tell you that. We all promised. Marcus felt frustration rising. Connor, I need the full story. I need all 7 witnesses. Why? So you can put their name in your article? So they can get harassed by reporters? Connor shook his head. The 7th person was there because God wanted them there. That's all you need to know. Marcus tried a different approach. Can you at least tell me why that person was at the church? Connor was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with how much to reveal. Finally, the 7th person came looking for something they'd lost, just like all of us. He met Marcus's eyes. That's all I'm saying. Marcus sighed but let it go. Okay, tell me about the prayer. I started. I always start. I'm used to leading prayers at NA meetings. Connor's voice grew reverent. I said, Father, we're here with this girl, Nevada. She's your daughter. You love her more than we can understand. We're asking you, begging you, bring her back. Don't let her die without knowing how loved she is. Did the others pray too? Don prayed for Nevada and for the family he'd lost. Esperanza prayed in Spanish, beautiful prayers to Mary and the saints. Dr. Tanaka didn't pray with words. She just stood there crying. Connor paused. And Elon Musk, he tried. He said, I don't know how to do this. I've never prayed, but if you're real, if you're listening, please help her. Please. Marcus wrote it all down, his hand moving rapidly across the page. How long did you pray? I don't know exactly. Time felt strange. 10 minutes? 20. Connor looked at the sky. And then the 7th person arrived. Tell me about that. The door opened, we all looked. Someone walked in. I won't say who. And they saw what we were doing. They saw Nevada on the floor. Saw us praying. Connor's voice grew quiet. And they broke. Completely broke. They fell on their knees and they started praying. Not regular prayers but desperate prayers. Like they were praying for their own life. What did they say? They said. Connor hesitated. They said, Maya, if you can hear me, if there's anything after death, help her. Help her like I couldn't help you. Marcus's pen stopped moving. The world stopped moving. Maya. What? His voice came out hoarse. What did you say? Connor looked at him with something like pity. The 7th person prayed to someone named Maya. Asked Maya to help Nevada. Marcus's heart was pounding. His hands started shaking. Who was the 7th person? But he already knew. God help him, he already knew. I can't tell you, Connor said softly. But I think you understand now why they can't be part of this story. Not yet. Marcus stood abruptly, his notebook falling to the ground. He couldn't breathe. The park, the children, Connor. Everything was spinning. He'd been there. He'd been in that church. He'd prayed for Nevada. He'd asked Maya to help. And he'd completely forgotten. Marcus. Connor stood and picked up the notebook. Are you okay?
I was there.
Marcus's voice shook. I was the 7th person. Connor didn't deny it. Just handed him the notebook and said, yes. But I don't remember. I don't remember any of it. Marcus grabbed Connor's arm. How can I not remember? Sometimes our minds protect us from things we're not ready to handle. But Connor's voice was gentle. You came into that church in the middle of our prayer. You saw Nevada dead on the floor. You saw all of us praying. And something in you broke open. Marcus sat back down on the bench, his legs unable to hold him. I don't understand. Don told me you'd been in Vegas that night, researching a different story. He said March 16th would have been your sister's death anniversary. Connor sat beside him. You were grieving. You wandered. You found the church. And I prayed for Nevada. Marcus put his head in his hands. Why would I pray for her? I didn't know her. Because you knew what it was like to lose someone you love. Because you saw a group of people trying to save a life and some part of you wanted to help. Connor put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. You prayed for Nevada and you asked your sister to help her. But Maya's dead. She can't help anyone. Can't she? Connor's voice was soft but firm. Marcus looked up. What are you saying? I'm saying that after you prayed, after you asked Maya to help, Nevada took a breath. The park, the morning, reality itself seemed to fracture. That's not possible. I watched it happen, Marcus. We all did. 7 people saw Nevada Musk die. 7 people prayed for her. 7 people watched her come back to life. Connor squeezed his shoulder. You were one of those 7. You just weren't ready to remember. Marcus felt tears on his face. He didn't remember crying. Tell me what happened. All of it. Connor nodded. Okay. I'll tell you everything. But you have to promise me something. What? After I tell you, you have to decide if you're brave enough to write it. To put your own name in this story as a witness. Connor looked at him seriously. Because that's what you are, Marcus. You're not just a journalist investigating a miracle. You're a witness who experienced one. Marcus wiped his face and picked up his pen. His hand was still shaking. Tell me. Connor looked at Marcus for a long moment, as if measuring whether he was truly ready. Then he began. After you came in and prayed, after you asked Maya to help, the whole atmosphere in the church changed. It's hard to explain, but everyone felt it. The air got heavier, thicker, like something was pressing down on us. Connor leaned back against the bench. Elon Musk was holding Nevada's hand. He was still praying, still begging. And then you said something. Marcus's throat felt tight. What did I say? You said, please. I couldn't save my sister. Let me help save someone else's. Connor's voice was quiet, and then you started crying. Really crying. You put your hands on Nevada's chest, right over her heart, and you just kept saying, please, please. Marcus closed his eyes. He had no memory of this. None. But somehow, hearing Connor describe it felt familiar, like remembering a dream. We all joined you. All 7 of us put our hands on Nevada. Her arms, her legs, her head, connected to her. Connor paused. And Reverend Trish, she started singing. This song in Yoruba, her native language. I don't know what the words meant, but it sounded like a lullaby, like she was calling Nevada home. How long did this go on? Maybe 5 minutes? Maybe 10? I wasn't watching the time. Connor looked at the playground, at the children laughing and playing, and then Nevada gasped. Marcus opened his eyes. Just like that? Just like that. 1 second she was gray and still. The next second she sucked in air. This huge, desperate breath like someone drowning who finally reaches the surface. Connor's face lit up with the memory. Dr. Tanaka immediately checked her pulse. She said, I have a pulse. Strong pulse. This is impossible. What did everyone else do? Dawn checked her breathing. Her pupils. Elon Musk was holding her, crying. Esperanza was praying in Spanish, thanking God. Reverend Trish just stood there with tears on her face, still singing. Connor smiled. And you backed away slowly. You looked terrified, like you'd seen something you couldn't understand. Then what? Then Nevada opened her eyes. She looked around at all of us, 7 strangers surrounding her, and she said, Where am I? Connor laughed softly. Such a normal question after something so impossible. Marcus wrote quickly, his hands steadier now. Was she confused? Disoriented? At first. Yeah. Dr. Tanaka explained what happened, that she'd overdosed, that they'd pronounced her dead at the hospital, that we'd brought her to the church. Connor shook his head. Nevada didn't believe it at first. She said she felt fine. Better than fine. She said she felt peaceful. Did she remember anything? From when she was dead? Connor was quiet for a moment. She said she remembered darkness. Not scary darkness, but empty darkness. Like floating in space. She said she heard voices calling her name, but she couldn't tell where they were coming from. He looked at Marcus. Then she said she heard someone say, Help her like I couldn't help you. And she felt pulled back, like hands grabbing her and pulling her toward light. Marcus felt chills run down his spine. Those had been his words, his prayer. She said when she opened her eyes and saw all of us, she knew something impossible had happened. She knew she'd been dead and somehow came back. Connor's voice grew softer. And then she looked at her uncle and said, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What did Elon Musk say? He just held her. Didn't say anything for a long time. Just held her like he was afraid to let go. Connor wiped his eyes. Finally he said, I'm the one who's sorry. I should have been there for you. I should have protected you. What happened to you? After Nevada woke up, you ran. Connor said it simply, without judgment. You stood up, back toward the door, and ran out of the church. I tried to follow you, but by the time I got outside, you were gone. Marcus tried to remember running, leaving, anything from that night. But there was only blankness. His mind had erased it completely. Why don't I remember? Trauma does that sometimes. Or maybe Connor paused. Maybe God knew you weren't ready to carry this yet. So he let you forget until the right time. And this is the right time? You're here, aren't you? Asking questions. Searching for truth. Connor stood and stretched. I think God's been preparing you to remember. He brought you back to Vegas. He led you to Dawn, to Esperanza, to me. Now you're ready. Marcus looked at his notebook. Pages filled with an impossible story. A story he was part of. What happened after I left? We stayed in the church until sunrise. Dr. Tanaka wanted to take Nevada back to the hospital. But Nevada refused. She said she didn't need a hospital. She needed to be with people who understood what happened. Connor smiled. So we sat in the pews and talked, told our stories, why we were each at the church that night. What did Elon Musk say? He told us about his first son, Nevada Alexander Musk. Born in 2002, died 10 weeks later from SIDS. Connor's voice was respectful, careful with the painful details. He said he never processed that grief. Just buried it and worked harder. Built companies, made rockets, tried to change the world. But he never dealt with losing his son. Marcus knew about this. It was public information. Elon's first child with his first wife had died as an infant. A tragedy that rarely got mentioned in articles about the billionaire's accomplishments. He said when his brother's daughter started struggling with addiction, he felt like he was watching history repeat itself. Another Nevada who needed saving. Connor sat back down. He'd been looking for her for 3 weeks. Checked homeless shelters, hospitals, rehab centers. When he got the call that she'd overdosed and died, he said it felt like losing his son all over again. Is that why he came to the church? Reverend Trish had been helping him search. She has connections all over Vegas. Knows the street people, the addicts, the workers at shelters. She's the one who found out Nevada had been brought to UMC. Connor paused. When the hospital pronounced Nevada dead, Reverend Trish called Elon, told him what happened. He drove straight there and witnessed a miracle. We all did. Connor looked at Marcus seriously. That's the thing people don't understand. This wasn't just about Nevada coming back to life. It was about 7 broken people being brought together to witness love defeating death. Each of us needed to see it for our own reasons. Marcus flipped back through his notes. Dawn needed hope after losing the family in the accident. Esperanza needed comfort after losing her husband and son. Dr. Tanaka needed to see something beyond medicine. You needed to know your prayers mattered. And Reverend Trish needed to see her faith confirmed. And Elon Musk needed to know that money and power can't save anyone. Only love can. Connor looked at Marcus. And you needed to know that your sister's death wasn't meaningless. That somehow even after dying, Maya was still helping people. Marcus felt tears threatening again. But Maya's dead. She can't help anyone. Can't she? Connor repeated his earlier question. Marcus, you prayed for Maya to help Nevada. And Nevada came back. Maybe Maya did help. Maybe love doesn't end when the body stops. That's not how the world works. Then how do you explain what happened? Connor challenged gently. 7 people saw Nevada Musk dead. Clinically dead. No pulse, no breathing, gray skin, blue lips. Then 7 people prayed over her body, and she came back to life. How do you explain that with science? Marcus didn't have an answer. The truth is, you can't explain it, Connor said. You can only witness it. Accept it. Let it change you. They sat in silence for a while. The children on the playground had left. The park was quiet except for birds singing in the scraggly trees. Finally, Marcus asked, what happened to Nevada after that night? Dr. Tanaka convinced her to go back to the hospital for tests. They kept her for 3 days, running every scan they could think of. Connor pulled out his phone and showed Marcus a photo. Nevada Musk sitting in a hospital bed, smiling, surrounded by flowers. Every test came back normal. No brain damage. No organ failure. No physical explanation for how she survived a lethal overdose and clinical death. Where is she now? Recovery house in Henderson. She's been clean since that night, 17 days now. Goes to NA meetings every day. Volunteers at the same rehab center where she used to work. Connor's face glowed with pride. She's different. Changed. She says she came back for a reason to help other addicts find hope. Has she talked to media? No, none of us have. Except for Elon's viral moment outside the church. We all agreed to keep quiet until Connor stopped. Until what? Until the seventh witness was ready. Connor looked at Marcus, meaningfully. Until you were ready. Marcus felt the weight of those words. This whole time, 6 people had been protecting him, keeping his name out of the story, waiting for him to remember. Does Nevada know about me? About what I said? Yes. We told her everything. She wants to meet you. Connor pulled out his phone again. She asked me to give you her number if you ever came looking for the truth. He showed Marcus the screen, a contact labeled Nevada M. Marcus stared at the number. I don't know what I'd say to her. You don't have to say anything. Just listen. Connor sent the contact to Marcus's phone. She has something to tell you, about what she experienced when she was dead. Something she hasn't told anyone else. Why would she tell me? Because you asked your sister to help her. And Nevada believes Maya did. Connor stood. I have to get to work. I have a shift at the rehab center in an hour. But Marcus, one more thing. What? Dawn gave you Esperanza's address. Esperanza gave you my number. I'm giving you Nevada's contact. Connor put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. We're all leading you toward the truth. But there's one more person you need to talk to before you understand the whole story. Who? Reverend Trish. Connor smiled. She has something to show you. Something she hasn't shown anyone else. She's been waiting for you to remember first. What is it? The security footage from that night. The church has cameras. She recorded everything. Connor squeezed Marcus's shoulder. When you're ready, go to the church. Tell her you remember. She'll show you. Connor walked away, leaving Marcus alone on the bench with a notebook full of impossible truths and a phone number that might lead to even more impossible answers. Marcus sat there for a long time, trying to process everything. He'd come to Vegas as a skeptical journalist investigating a viral video. Now he was discovering he'd been part of the story all along. A witness to a miracle he'd completely forgotten. His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Marcus, I need an update. What have you found? He stared at the message. What could he tell her? That he'd interviewed 3 witnesses who all told the same impossible story. That Elon Musk's niece had died and come back to life. That Marcus himself had been there and prayed over her body. She'd think he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. He typed back. Still investigating. Need more time to verify the facts. Sarah's response was immediate. You have 24 hours. Then I'm assigning the story to someone else. Marcus put his phone away and looked at Nevada's contact information. His thumb hovered over the call button. What would he say to this girl he'd helped save? What would she say to him? Before he could decide, his phone rang. An unknown Vegas number. Marcus answered. Hello? Mr. Chen? A young woman's voice, soft but clear. This is Nevada Musk. Connor said he gave you my number. I was hoping we could meet. Marcus's heart raced. How did you get my number? Connor sent it to me. I hope that's okay. She paused. I know this is strange, but I need to talk to you. I need to thank you. Thank me? For what? For praying for me. For asking your sister to help me. Her voice grew emotional. Mr. Chen, I met her. When I was dead, I met Maya. The world tilted. What? Please, can we meet? I'll tell you everything. I'll tell you what she said. Nevada's voice was gentle but urgent. She has a message for you. Marcus couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. This couldn't be real. Where? He heard himself say. The International Church. Can you meet me there in an hour? Reverend Trish will be there too. She wants to show you something. The security footage. Yes, you need to see it. You need to see yourself praying for me. You need to see the moment I came back. Nevada paused. You need to see that miracles are real, Mr. Chen. Even for people who stopped believing in them. Marcus looked at his shaking hand, at the notebook filled with testimonies, at the Vegas sky bright and blue and impossible. I'll be there, he said. Thank you. And Mr. Chen? Nevada's voice was warm. Maya loved you very much. She wants you to know she's okay. She wants you to stop blaming yourself. The line went dead. Marcus sat on the bench in the empty park, tears streaming down his face, and for the first time in 2 years, he let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, death wasn't the end. Maybe love was stronger. Maybe Maya was still with him somehow. Maybe miracles were real. He stood up, wiped his face, and walked back to his car. In 1 hour, he would see the footage. He would watch himself pray over a dead girl. He would witness the impossible moment when Nevada Musk opened her eyes. And he would have to decide, was he brave enough to write a story that would cost him his credibility? Was he brave enough to tell the world he'd witnessed a resurrection? Was he brave enough to believe? Marcus got in his car and drove toward the International Church. Toward answers. Toward a truth that would either destroy his career or save his soul. He didn't know which, but he was about to find out. Marcus arrived at the International Church 15 minutes early. He parked across the street and sat in his car, watching the small white building with its simple wooden cross. In daylight, it looked ordinary, humble, not like a place where impossible things happen. But Connor's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes God works in the humblest places. That's where people are most desperate, most open. Marcus checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. His eyes were red from crying. His hair was a mess. He looked like a man coming apart at the seams. Maybe he was. He got out of the car and crossed the street. As he reached the church steps, the door opened. Reverend Trish stood there, wearing the same simple blue dress from yesterday. Her expression was kind but knowing. "Marcus Chen," she said. Not a question. A statement. "You remember now. Some of it. Not all." Marcus climbed the steps. "Connor told me I was there. That I prayed for Nevada." "You did more than pray." Reverend Trish stepped aside, letting him enter. "You broke open. You let God use your pain to help someone else. That takes courage." Inside, the church was cool and quiet. Sunlight streamed through plain glass windows, illuminating rows of wooden pews. The altar was simple: a wooden table with a white cloth, a brass cross, fresh flowers. Nothing fancy, nothing false. Nevada Musk sat in the front pew. She turned when Marcus entered, and he got his first real look at her. She was small, thin, with long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a Recovery House t-shirt. Her face was young but carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much darkness. But her eyes were bright, alive, clear. She stood and walked toward him, and Marcus saw his sister in her movements. That same fragile hope Maya had carried during her brief remission. That same desperate gratitude for being alive one more day. "Mr. Chen." Nevada extended her hand. "Thank you for coming." Marcus shook her hand. It was warm, solid, real. "Please, call me Marcus." "Marcus." She smiled slightly. "Connor told me you're a journalist, that you came to Vegas to investigate what happened here." "I did. But now." He paused, uncertain how to explain. "Now I'm discovering I was part of what happened. You were the most important part." Nevada gestured to the pew. "Will you sit? I want to tell you something before Reverend Trish shows you the footage." They sat together in the front row, the same place Esperanza had prayed every night for 2 months. The same place where Nevada's body had been laid 3 nights ago. Reverend Trish sat behind them, giving them space but staying close. Nevada took a breath. "I need to start by saying I don't remember everything clearly. When you're dead." She paused, as if testing how the word felt. "When you're dead, memory works differently. Time works differently. But some things I remember perfectly." Marcus pulled out his notebook, but Nevada shook her head. "Not yet. Just listen first. You can write it down later if you want." She folded her hands in her lap. "Do you believe in heaven, Mark?" "I don't know what I believe anymore." "Fair answer." Nevada smiled sadly. "I didn't believe in anything. I thought life was random, meaningless. That's part of why I used drugs, to make the meaninglessness feel less empty." "What changed?" "I died." She said it simply, matter-of-factly. "I remember using behind the 7-Eleven. I remember the needle. I remember thinking, this is too much. I used too much. Then everything went dark." Marcus leaned forward, listening intently. The darkness wasn't scary at first. It was quiet, peaceful, like floating in warm water with your eyes closed. Nevada's voice grew distant, remembering. But then I realized I couldn't feel my body, couldn't feel anything. And that's when I got scared. What happened then? I heard voices, far away, like they were calling from another room. I couldn't understand the words, but I knew they were calling my name. She looked at the altar. I tried to move toward the voices, but I couldn't figure out how. I had no body to move. How long did this last? I don't know. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. Time didn't exist there. Nevada rubbed her arms like she was cold. Then I heard one voice more clearly than the others. A woman's voice. She said, "Not yet, child. You have work to do." Marcus felt chills. I said, "Who are you?" And the voice said, "Someone who knows what it's like to die too young. Someone who wants you to live." Nevada looked at Marcus with tears in her eyes. And then I saw her. What did you see? A woman. Maybe 30 years old. Asian. Beautiful. She was glowing. Not like a light bulb, but like she was made of light from the inside. Nevada wiped her eyes. She smiled at me and said, "My brother is praying for you. He's asking me to help you. So I'm going to help you go back." Marcus's hand started shaking. What did she look like? Nevada pulled out her phone and opened a drawing app. "I drew this yesterday. It's not perfect, I'm not an artist. But this is what I saw." She showed him the screen. Marcus stared at the drawing. Black hair. Kind eyes. A gentle smile. It was rough, sketchy. But the resemblance was unmistakable. It was Maya. "That's my sister," Marcus whispered. "I know." Nevada put her phone away. She told me. She said, "Tell Marcus I'm okay. Tell him to stop blaming himself for not saving me. Tell him I didn't need saving. I needed to go home. But you need to stay. You have people to help." Marcus couldn't speak. Tears ran down his face. She put her hand on my chest. I could feel it, even though I had no body, and she said, "Go back. Live. Help others like Connor helped you. That's how you thank me. That's how you thank my brother." Nevada's voice broke. Then she pushed me and I felt like I was falling backward through darkness. And then I gasped and opened my eyes and saw all of you standing around me. Reverend Trish handed Marcus a tissue. He took it, wiping his face, trying to compose himself. "I know how this sounds," Nevada said. "I know people will think I hallucinated. That my brain created the vision because of oxygen deprivation or drugs or trauma. But Marcus, I saw things I couldn't have known." "Like what?" "She told me your name before anyone said it out loud. She told me you were a journalist. She told me you blamed yourself for her death because you were working when she called you the night she got sick." Nevada looked at him intently. "Is that true?" Marcus felt like he'd been punched. "Yes. She called me from the hospital, said she didn't feel well, asked me to come. I said I had a deadline. I'd come in the morning." His voice cracked. "By morning she was in a coma. She never woke up. She doesn't blame you. She wants you to know that." Nevada took his hand. She said you gave her the best gift a brother could give. You let her be herself. You didn't try to fix her or change her. You just loved her. Marcus broke down completely. 2 years of guilt and grief poured out in gut-wrenching sobs. Nevada held his hand. Reverend Trish put her hand on his shoulder. They let him cry. Finally, when the tears slowed, Marcus looked up. "How is this possible? How can any of this be real?" "I don't know how," Reverend Trish said gently. "But I know it is real. I've been a pastor for 28 years. I've prayed for countless people. I've seen God work in small ways, quiet ways. But this," she gestured around the church. "This was God showing us that death is not the end, that love transcends everything, even the grave." "But scientifically," Marcus started. "Science explains how the world works," Reverend Trish interrupted. "But it doesn't explain why. It doesn't explain love. It doesn't explain sacrifice. It doesn't explain why 7 strangers would gather around a dead girl and pray with all their hearts for her to live." Marcus looked at Nevada. "You really died?" "Yes." "And you really came back?" "Yes." "Because we prayed. Because you asked your sister to help me. And somehow, she did." Nevada squeezed his hand. "I don't understand it either, Marcus. But I'm alive. I'm clean. I'm here. That's all the proof I need. Reverend Trish stood. Come with me, both of you. It's time to show you the footage. She led them to a small office behind the altar. The room was cramped, with a desk, filing cabinets, and a computer. Reverend Trish sat at the computer and opened a video file. I've watched this footage 50 times, she said. Every time I see something new. Something miraculous. She looked at Marcus. But I haven't shown it to anyone else. I was waiting for you. Why me? Because you needed to remember first. You needed to hear the testimonies. You needed to meet Nevada. Reverend Trish clicked play. Now you're ready to see what really happened. The video started at 11:30 p.m. on March 14, 2025. The timestamp glowed in the corner. The security camera showed a wide view of the church interior, the pews, the aisle, the altar. Esperanza sat in the front row, head bowed, praying. At 11:33 p.m., the door opened. Connor and Dr. Tanaka entered, carrying Nevada wrapped in a hospital blanket. They laid her on the floor in front of the altar. Even on the grainy security footage, Marcus could see Nevada's gray skin, her lifeless body. Esperanza stood and moved toward them. At 11:36 p.m., Don entered. He looked destroyed, empty. He sat in a back pew. At 11:42 p.m., Reverend Trish arrived. She knelt beside Nevada, checked her carefully, then shook her head. At 11:47 p.m., the door burst open. Elon Musk rushed in. Marcus watched the billionaire collapse beside his niece, watched him beg and plead, watched him try to pray without knowing how. This is the part, Reverend Trish said quietly. Watch carefully. At 11:52 p.m., the door opened again. A man stumbled in. His clothes were wrinkled. His face was streaked with tears. He looked lost, broken, barely holding himself together. It was Marcus. He watched himself on the screen, and fragments of memory began to surface. The panic attack outside a casino. Walking aimlessly through Vegas streets, seeing the church and feeling drawn to it. Opening the door and finding a scene he couldn't understand. On screen, Marcus of 3 nights ago stopped in the doorway. He stared at the scene. Nevada dead, 6 people gathered around her. His mouth moved, but there was no audio. What did I say? Marcus asked. You said, is she dead? Reverend Trish replied. I said yes. You said, can I help? I said, we're praying for her. And you said, I know how to pray. I prayed for my sister. It didn't work, but I know how. On screen, Marcus walked forward slowly. He knelt beside Nevada's body. He looked at Elon Musk, at Connor, at all of them. Then he put his hands on Nevada's chest, over her heart, and bowed his head. His shoulders shook. He was crying. Reverend Trish fast-forwarded slightly. You prayed for 13 minutes. Then you said this. She slowed the video back to normal speed. On screen, Marcus looked up at the ceiling and spoke. No audio, but his lips were clear. Maya, if you can hear me, if there's anything after death, help her. Help her like I couldn't help you. Marcus watched himself say those words, and the memory crashed back fully. He remembered saying it, remembered meaning it with every cell in his body, remembered feeling desperate and helpless and willing to try anything, even prayer to a sister who was gone. Now watch, Reverend Trish said. This is 12:09 a.m., exactly 17 minutes after you arrived. On screen, nothing visible changed. But Marcus saw all 7 people react simultaneously. They gasped, stepped back slightly. Their faces showed shock, awe, fear, wonder all at once. What happened there? Marcus asked. I don't see anything different. Neither do I, Reverend Trish said. But all 7 of you felt something. Later when I asked, you each described it differently. Connor said he felt a wave of warmth. Don said he felt pressure, like a hand pressing down. Esperanza said she smelled roses, though there were no roses in the church. Dr. Tanaka said the air suddenly felt electric. What did I say? You said you felt your sister. That for just a second, you felt like Maya was standing right behind you, with her hands on your shoulders. Reverend Trish looked at him. What do you remember? Marcus closed his eyes, reaching for the memory. Warmth. On my shoulders. And a voice. Maya's voice saying, "Let go, Mark. Let go of the guilt. You did enough." He opened his eyes. "I thought I imagined it. Maybe you did. Or maybe your sister really was there, helping you let go so you could help someone else." Reverend Trish pressed play again. Now watch Nevada. At 12:10 a.m., Nevada's chest moved. Just slightly, a shallow breath. At 12:11 a.m., her chest rose and fell more clearly. At 12:12 a.m., her hand twitched. At 12:13 a.m., her eyes opened. Marcus watched 7 people react: joy, shock, tears, laughter, collapse. He watched himself on screen stand up slowly, back away, turn and run out the door. "I ran," Marcus said quietly. "I saw a miracle and I ran from it." "You ran because you weren't ready," Nevada said from behind him. She'd been watching the footage too. "But now you're ready. Now you believe." Marcus turned to look at her. This girl who died and lived. This girl his sister had somehow helped save. "I'm starting to," he admitted. Reverend Trish, close the video file. "Marcus, 6 witnesses have told you what happened. Nevada has told you what she experienced. You've seen the footage. You've remembered being there." She looked at him seriously. "Now comes the hard part." "What's that?" "Deciding what to do with this truth. You're a journalist. This is the story of a lifetime. But if you write it, if you tell the world you witnessed a resurrection, you'll be mocked, questioned, maybe destroyed professionally." Reverend Trish stood. "So you have to decide, is telling the truth worth the cost?" Marcus looked at his notebook, filled with testimonies. He looked at Nevada, alive and hopeful. He looked at the simple church where 7 broken people had witnessed the impossible. He thought about Maya, about her faith, about her final words to him. "Mark, you're so smart. But someday you're going to see something that science can't explain. And on that day, I hope you're brave enough to believe it anyway." That day had come. "I need to talk to one more person," Marcus said. "Dr. Tanaka. I need to hear what she saw from a medical perspective." Nevada nodded. "She's working today. ER shift at UNC. I can call her, tell her you're coming." "And after that?" Reverend Trish asked. "After you've heard from all 7 witnesses?" "After that, I write the truth." Marcus stood, feeling more certain than he had in years. "Whatever it cost me." University Medical Center of Southern Nevada sat on West Charleston Boulevard, a sprawling complex of buildings that served as Las Vegas's main trauma center. Marcus had driven past it twice in the last 3 days, without realizing its significance to his story. This was where Nevada Musk had died, and where Dr. Yuki Tanaka had made the impossible decision to let Connor take a dead body to a church. Marcus parked in the visitor lot and checked his phone. Nevada had texted him. "Dr. Tanaka is expecting you. Ask for her at the ER front desk. She has a break at 2. It was 1:45 p.m. now. Marcus sat in his car reviewing his notes from the morning. 7 witnesses. 7 perspectives. All describing the same impossible event. But Dr. Tanaka would be different. She was a scientist, trained to trust evidence and observation. If anyone would give him a rational explanation or confirm that no rational explanation existed, it would be her. Marcus walked into the hospital. The ER waiting room was crowded with people nursing injuries and illnesses. A child cried in his mother's arms. An elderly man held a bloody towel to his head. A woman coughed into her elbow. Normal human suffering on a normal Thursday afternoon. Marcus approached the front desk. "Excuse me, I'm looking for Dr. Yuki Tanaka." "She's expecting me." The nurse at the desk looked up. "Your name?" "Marcus Chen." She typed something into her computer. "She said to send you to the staff lounge. 3rd floor. Take the elevator to your right. Turn left. Last door at the end of the hall." "Thank you." Marcus took the elevator up, his nerves building with each floor. Dr. Tanaka was the most skeptical witness. Connor had mentioned that she wasn't religious, that she'd questioned everything about that night. What would she tell him? He found the staff lounge, a small room with a couch, a few chairs, a coffee maker, and a refrigerator covered in hospital safety posters. Dr. Tanaka sat at a small table eating a sandwich and reading something on her tablet. She looked up when Marcus entered. She was in her mid-40s, with short black hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. Her scrubs were wrinkled, and she had the exhausted look of someone who'd been on shift too long. Mr. Chen? She set down her tablet. Yes. Thank you for seeing me, Dr. Tanaka. Call me Yuki, and I'm only seeing you because Nevada asked me to. She gestured to the chair across from her. She said you're writing about what happened that night. She said you were there. I was. Though I didn't remember until today. Yuki studied him carefully. Trauma-induced amnesia. Not uncommon after witnessing something your brain can't process. She took a bite of her sandwich. I almost wish I could forget too. Would make things simpler. Marcus sat down and pulled out his notebook. Can I record this conversation? No recording, but you can take notes. Yuki finished her sandwich and crumpled the wrapper. What do you want to know? Everything. From your perspective. As a doctor. Yuki leaned back in her chair. Okay. But I'm going to tell you the medical facts first. Then I'll tell you what I can't explain. And then you're going to have to decide what to believe. Because I still haven't decided myself. Fair enough. Nevada Musk was brought to this ER by ambulance at 10:38 p.m. on March 14th. Paramedics reported they'd found her unconscious behind a convenience store with a needle nearby. Suspected opioid overdose. Yuki's voice became clinical, detached. When she arrived, she had no pulse, no respiration, fixed and dilated pupils. Skin was cyanotic. That's the medical term for turning blue from lack of oxygen. Marcus wrote quickly. We performed CPR immediately, administered Narcan. That's the medication that reverses opioid overdose. We tried for 23 minutes. Yuki looked at her hands. 23 minutes of chest compressions, rescue breathing, defibrillation, epinephrine injections. Nothing worked. What did the monitors show? Flatline. Complete absence of cardiac activity. No brain activity. Yuki met his eyes. Mr. Chen, I've been an ER doctor for 19 years. I've pronounced hundreds of people dead. I know what death looks like. Nevada Musk was dead. When did you make it official? At 11:04 p.m. I called time of death. I documented it in her chart. I called the medical examiner's office to arrange for the body. Yuki stood and walked to the coffee maker. Poured herself a cup. Standard procedure. Death from drug overdose. Happens almost every day in this city. But then Connor Wade asked to take her body. Not asked. Begged. Yuki turned around, leaning against the counter. This young man I'd never met before came into the room where we'd moved to Nevada's body. He looked at her lying there and he started crying. Then he looked at me and said, please let me take her to a church. I need to pray for her there. What did you think? I thought he was crazy. You can't just take bodies out of hospitals. There are laws, regulations, procedures. Yuki sipped her coffee. I told him no. I told him I was sorry, but it wasn't possible. He needed to leave, but he didn't. No. He sat down next to Nevada's body and he started praying out loud, right there in the room, talking to God like God was standing right next to him. Yuki shook her head. I should have called security, but something stopped me. What? I don't know. Yuki returned to her chair. That's the first thing I can't explain. Why I stood there listening to this stranger pray over a dead girl. Why I felt compelled to help him. Marcus leaned forward. Compelled how? Like a voice in my head saying, let him try. What harm can it do? Yuki looked uncomfortable. I'm a scientist, Mr. Chen. I don't hear voices. I don't believe in divine intervention. But in that moment I felt strongly that I should help Connor take Nevada to his church. So you did. Against every protocol, against my better judgment, yes. I helped him carry her to my car. We wrapped her in a hospital blanket. I drove him to the international church. Yuki rubbed her temples. If anyone had seen us, I would have lost my medical license. But I did it anyway. What happened when you got to the church? There was already someone there. An older Hispanic woman praying in the front. A pastor, Reverend Trish, met us at the door. She didn't seem surprised. Just helped us carry Nevada inside and lay her on the floor. Marcus nodded, confirming what he'd already heard from the others. Then a paramedic arrived, Don Cross. I know Don, we've worked together on ambulance calls. He's good at his job, experienced, competent. Yuki set down her coffee cup. Don looked at Nevada and checked her vitals. He looked at me and said, she's gone. I said, I know, I pronounced her 40 minutes ago. Did you check her vitals again? Yes. Force of habit. I checked her pulse. Nothing. Checked her breathing. Nothing. Checked her pupils, fixed and dilated, no response to light. Skin temperature was dropping. Rigor mortis would start setting in within a few hours. Yuki's voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Nevada Musk was dead, Mr. Chen. Medically, legally, completely dead. Then Elon Musk arrived. Yes, that was surreal. One of the richest men in the world, running into a small church at midnight, collapsing beside a dead girl. Yuki paused. But in that moment, he wasn't Elon Musk the billionaire. He was just a man who'd lost someone he loved. What did you do? I told him the truth. I said, I'm sorry. She's gone. There's nothing more I can do. Yuki looked at her hands, and he looked at me with these desperate eyes and said, then what's the point of all my money? What's the point of all my technology if I can't save one person I love? Marcus felt that question pierce his heart. He'd asked the same thing about Maya. What was the point of modern medicine if it couldn't save his sister? Then you arrived, Yuki said, looking at Marcus. You stumbled in looking lost. You saw all of us around Nevada's body and you asked if she was dead. When we said yes, you asked if you could help. You said you knew how to pray. I don't remember saying that. You did. And then you knelt down and you prayed harder than anyone I'd ever seen. Like you were praying for your own life. Yuki's voice softened. Connor told me later about your sister. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. Marcus cleared his throat. What happened during the prayer? We all prayed. Even me. And I'm not religious. I'm Buddhist by heritage. But not practicing. I don't go to temples. I don't believe in supernatural intervention. Yuki stood again, too restless to sit. But that night I prayed. Because what else could I do? Medicine had failed. Science had failed. Maybe prayer would work. How long did you pray? I don't know exactly, 15 minutes? 20? Yuki walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot. And then something changed. Marcus's pen stopped. Changed how? The air felt different. Heavier. Like the atmospheric pressure had shifted. Yuki turned to face him. I know that sounds unscientific. But everyone felt it. We all reacted at the same moment. Looked up, looked at each other like we'd all felt the same thing. What did it feel like to you? Like static electricity. Like the air before a thunderstorm. My hair stood up on my arms. Yuki demonstrated, showing him the goosebumps still visible on her forearms. And then Nevada gasped. Just like that? Just like that. 1 second she was dead cold, gray, lifeless. The next second she sucked in air. A huge, desperate breath. Yuki's clinical composure cracked slightly. I immediately checked her pulse, strong and steady. Checked her breathing regular, unlabored. Checked her pupils reactive to light. Mr. Chen, in the span of maybe 3 seconds, Nevada went from completely dead to completely alive. Marcus wrote frantically, trying to capture every detail. What's the medical explanation? There isn't one. Yuki said it flatly, without emotion. I've spent 3 weeks trying to find one. I've reviewed her charts. I've consulted with colleagues, without naming Nevada, just describing the symptom. I've read every medical journal article about suspended animation, catalepsy, misdiagnosed death, and none of it fits. Nevada was dead for over an hour. At room temperature, no heartbeat, no brain activity, no cellular respiration. Even if she'd been in some kind of coma or suspended state, which she wasn't, she would have massive brain damage. Organ failure. Something. Yuki returned to her chair, sitting heavily. But when I examined her at the church, then later at the hospital, she was fine. Better than fine. Perfect. What did the hospital test show? We kept her for 3 days, running every test imaginable. CT scans, MRI, EEG, blood work, toxicology, cardiac monitoring. Yuki pulled out her phone and showed Marcus a document. These are her test results. All normal. No brain damage. No organ damage. No indication she'd ever been clinically dead. Marcus looked at the results. Pages of medical data, all showing a healthy 19-year-old woman. The only unusual finding was her tox screen. Yuki continued. She should have had massive amounts of heroin and fentanyl in her system, enough to kill her 3 times over. But when we tested her at the church, her blood was almost clean, like her body had metabolized it all during the time she was dead. Which is impossible, because dead bodies don't metabolize anything. What did you put in your official report? Yuki laughed bitterly. That's the problem. What could I say? That a dead patient came back to life after prayer? I'd be fired for incompetence or investigated for fraud. She put her phone away. I wrote that I'd made an error in my initial assessment, that Nevada had been in deep unconsciousness, but not actually dead, that she responded to extended CPR and Narcan. But that's not true. No, it's a lie. A necessary lie to protect my career and avoid questions I can't answer. Yuki looked at Marcus intensely. But you're asking me for the truth. The truth is, Nevada Musk died in my ER at 11:04 p.m. on March 14th, and she came back to life at 12:13 a.m. on March 15th. And I have no medical explanation for how or why. They sat in silence for a moment. The hospital intercom crackled, someone being paged to surgery. Life and death, continuing their eternal dance. Do you believe in God now? Marcus asked quietly. Yuki was quiet for a long time. I believe something happened that science can't explain. I believe 7 people witnessed it together. I believe Nevada is alive when she should be dead. She paused. Whether that something is God or some natural phenomenon we don't understand yet, I can't say. But you felt something. In the church. You said the air changed. Yes. And you prayed. Even though you don't believe. Yes. Why? Yuki looked at him with tired, honest eyes. Because in that moment, watching this desperate young man beg for his friend's life, watching this billionaire break down crying, watching you pray to your dead sister, I wanted it to work. I wanted prayer to be real. I wanted there to be something more powerful than death. And when Nevada opened her eyes, I felt joy, and terror, and confusion. Yuki smiled slightly, but mostly joy. Because regardless of how it happened or why, a 19-year-old girl got a second chance at life. As a doctor, that's all I really care about. Marcus closed his notebook. Thank you for your honesty. Will you use my name in your story? Marcus considered. Do you want me to? I don't know. Yuki stood as her pager beeped. If you use my name, I'll probably face professional consequences. Investigations, questions, skepticism. But if you don't use my name, people might think I'm not real. That this whole story is fabricated? What do you want me to do? Yuki looked at him for a long moment. Tell the truth. Whatever consequences come, tell the truth. That's what doctors are supposed to do, report what we observe even when we can't explain it. I will. One more thing. Yuki walked to the door, then turned back. Nevada asked me yesterday why I agreed to help Connor that night. Why I drove a dead body to a church. I told her I didn't know. But that's not entirely true. What's the real reason? Because 3 years ago, my younger brother died of cancer. He was 27. At the end, he asked me if I believed in heaven. I told him no. I believed in science, in evidence, in what we can measure and test. Yuki's voice cracked. He looked so disappointed, like I'd taken away his last comfort. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. This was Maya's question too. Do you believe in anything beyond death? So when Connor asked me to help him pray for Nevada, some part of me thought, maybe this is my chance. Maybe I can help save someone I couldn't save 3 years ago. Maybe I can believe just for one night that love is stronger than death. Yuki opened the door, and when Nevada came back, when she opened her eyes and smiled, I felt like my brother was telling me, see? I was right. There is something more. She left, leaving Marcus alone in the staff lounge with his notebook full of impossible testimonies. 7 witnesses. 7 stories. All consistent. All describing the same miracle from different angles. A paramedic seeking hope after tragedy. A mother seeking comfort after devastating loss. A young recovering addict seeking purpose. A pastor seeking confirmation of her faith. A billionaire seeking redemption. A doctor seeking something beyond science. And Marcus, seeking his sister, seeking forgiveness, seeking proof that death wasn't the end. And somehow, impossibly, all seven had found what they were looking for in a small church at midnight. Marcus walked out of the hospital into the bright Vegas afternoon. He sat in his car and called Sarah. She answered immediately. Marcus, finally. What do you have? I have the story. The whole story. And it's gonna sound impossible. People won't believe it. Is it true? Marcus looked at the hospital where Nevada had died. He thought about the church where she'd come back. He thought about 7 broken people whose lives had been changed forever by one impossible night. Yes, he said, it's true. Then write it. I want it on my desk tomorrow morning. Sarah, there's something else. Something I need to tell you. What? I was there. I'm one of the 7 witnesses. This isn't just a story I investigated, it's a story I lived. Silence on the other end of the line. Sarah, are you telling me you witnessed a miracle and forgot about it? Yes. More silence. Then, Marcus, if you put yourself in this story, it'll destroy your credibility as a journalist. People will think you fabricated everything. I know. They'll say you had a breakdown after your sister died. That you imagined it all. I know. So why do it? Why risk your career? Marcus thought about Maya. About her final words to him. Her challenge to be brave enough to believe. Because it's the truth, he said simply. And telling the truth is worth the cost. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Okay. Write it. We'll deal with the consequences together. Marcus hung up and sat in his car watching normal people come and go from the hospital. People seeking healing, seeking answers, seeking hope in science and medicine. But sometimes, science and medicine weren't enough. Sometimes you needed something more. Something impossible. Something miraculous. Marcus drove back to his hotel and opened his laptop. He stared at the blank page, cursor blinking, waiting for him to begin. How did you write about a resurrection? How did you describe the moment death lost its power? How did you make the impossible sound real? He thought about each witness. Their pain, their hope, their transformation. And then he began to type. Marcus typed for 6 hours straight. The words poured out of him like water from a broken dam. 2 years of grief and doubt and suppressed him sponge and flowing onto the page. He wrote about Don and the family he couldn't save. He wrote about Esperanza and the unbearable pain of bearing a child. He wrote about Connor's fierce faith in Dr. Tanaka's scientific confusion. He wrote about Nevada dying and coming back. And he wrote about himself, the skeptical journalist who'd witnessed a miracle and run from it. By midnight, he had 12,000 words. His eyes burned. His back ached. His fingers cramped. But he kept writing because stopping would mean facing the reality of what he was about to do, end his career as an objective journalist and become part of the story he was telling. At 2:00 a.m. his phone rang. Connor. Hello? Marcus answered, his voice hoarse. Did I wake you? No. I'm writing. Good. Connor sounded wide awake despite the hour. I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about our conversation. About you remembering. Marcus leaned back in his chair, rolling his stiff shoulders. I've been thinking about it too. About everything. Nevada told me she talked to you, told you about Maya. She did. Marcus felt emotion rise in his throat. Connor, do you really believe my sister was there? In that church? Yes. How can you be so certain? Because Nevada described her perfectly, details she couldn't have known. Because you felt her presence. Because something pulled Nevada back from death, and love is the only force powerful enough to do that. Connor paused. Your sister loved you, Marcus. Death doesn't end love, it just changes its form. Marcus stood and walked to the hotel window. Vegas glowed in the darkness below. The strip's artificial brilliance trying to hold back the night. I want to believe that. But my rational mind keeps fighting it. Your rational mind is scared. It's easier to believe death is the end than to believe love continues beyond it. Because if love continues, that means you're still connected to Maya, still responsible to live in a way that honors her memory. Those words hit Marcus like a physical blow. What do you mean? I mean, you've been hiding in grief for 2 years. Using Maya's death as an excuse to stop really living, to stop taking risks, to stop believing in anything. Connor's voice was gentle but firm. But now you've seen proof that death isn't the end. Now you have to decide, are you going to keep hiding, or are you going to live the way Maya would want you to live? Marcus pressed his forehead against the cool glass. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You're already doing it. You're writing this story even though it'll cost you professionally. You're choosing truth over safety. That's exactly what Maya would want. They talked for another hour about faith, fear, and the courage it takes to believe in something you can't prove. When Marcus finally hung up, dawn was breaking over the mountains east of Vegas. He returned to his laptop and kept writing. By 8 a.m., he'd written 16,000 words. The story was nearly complete. He just needed one more element. Elon Musk's perspective. The man whose desperate prayer had started everything. Marcus hadn't tried to contact Musk yet. The billionaire was famously difficult to reach, protected by layers of assistants and PR people. But Nevada had said her uncle wanted to talk to Marcus eventually. Maybe now was the time. Marcus pulled up Nevada's contact and called. She answered on the second ring. Marcus, is everything okay? I'm fine. I'm writing this story. But I need to talk to your uncle. Do you think he'd be willing to meet with me? Nevada was quiet for a moment. Let me call him. He's been waiting for you to ask. Waiting? He knew you'd need to hear from all 7 witnesses before you could write the full truth, including yourself. She paused. Give me an hour. I'll call you back. Marcus used the hour to shower, eat breakfast, and review his notes one more time. Every witness had told the same essential story with different details. The consistency was remarkable. No contradictions, no conflicting timelines, no evidence of collusion or fabrication. Either 7 people had coordinated an elaborate hoax, or they'd all witnessed something genuinely impossible. Marcus knew which explanation was true. He'd been there. He'd felt it. He remembered now the warmth on his shoulders, Maya's voice telling him to let go. The moment Nevada gasped and opened her eyes. It was real. All of it was real. His phone rang. Nevada. He'll meet you, she said. Tonight at 7 p.m. But not in public. He's staying at a private residence in Henderson. I'll text you the address. Thank you, Nevada. Marcus? Her voice was soft. Thank you. For believing. For writing the truth. It means everything to me. After she hung up, Marcus spent the day preparing questions for Musk. But he also spent time thinking about what Connor had said, that Marcus had been hiding in grief, using Maya's death as an excuse to stop really living. It was true. For 2 years, Marcus had gone through the motions. Working, eating, sleeping, but not truly living. Not taking risks. Not opening himself to joy or pain or possibility. He'd built walls around his heart and called it healing. But healing wasn't the same as hiding. True healing meant being brave enough to live fully again. To love again. To believe again. Even knowing that loss would come eventually. Even knowing that every person you love will die someday. Maya had understood this. Even dying of cancer, she'd lived more fully in her final months than Marcus had lived in the 2 years since. She'd laughed, cried, loved, believed. She'd made peace with death because she'd truly embraced life. Marcus needed to learn how to do that. At 6:30 p.m., he got in his car and drove to Henderson. The address Nevada had given him led to a gated community in the hills, expensive homes with mountain views and private security. At the gate, Marcus gave his name to the guard, who checked a list and waved him through. The house was modern, all glass and steel, perched on a hillside overlooking the city. Silver Cybertruck sat in the driveway. Marcus parked and walked to the front door. Before he could knock, it opened. Elon Musk stood there wearing jeans and a black t-shirt. He looked tired but calm, more relaxed than Marcus had ever seen him in interviews or public appearances. Marcus Chen. Musk extended his hand. Thanks for coming. They shook hands. Musk's grip was firm but not aggressive. Thank you for agreeing to talk to me, Marcus said. Come in. We have a lot to discuss. The house's interior was minimalist, sparse furniture, clean lines, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the Vegas lights beginning to glow as dusk fell. Musk led Marcus to a living room with a leather couch and 2 chairs. Can I get you anything? Water? Coffee? Musk asked. Water would be great. Musk returned with 2 bottles of water and sat across from Marcus. For a moment, neither spoke. They just looked at each other. 2 men who'd knelt together over a dead girl and prayed for a miracle. You remember now? Musk said. Not a question. Yes, Connor told me. Then I saw the security footage. Good. I didn't want to talk to you until you remembered. Until you understood you weren't just writing about us. You were writing about yourself too. Musk opened his water bottle. How much of the story have you written? Most of it. I've interviewed Don Esperanza, Connor, Dr. Tanaka. I've talked to Nevada. I've watched the footage. I just need your perspective to complete it. My perspective. Musk smiled slightly. The perspective of a man who spent his whole life believing in science and logic and measurable reality. Until one night when all of that wasn't enough. Marcus pulled out his notebook. Can I? Yes, write whatever you want. I'm done hiding from this. Musk leaned back in his chair. You know about my son. My first Nevada. I do. I'm sorry for your loss. He died in 2002. SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome. 10 weeks old. Musk's voice was steady, but Marcus heard the old pain beneath it. I was 29. I thought I could solve any problem with enough money and intelligence, but I couldn't solve that one. Couldn't bring him back. Couldn't even understand why it happened. How did you cope? I didn't. I just worked, built companies, made money, convinced myself that if I changed the world, if I made humans a multiplanetary species, if I accelerated sustainable energy, then somehow his death would have meaning. Musk looked out at the darkening sky. But it didn't work. The pain never went away. I just buried it deeper. When did you learn about your niece's addiction? Last year. My brother Kimball called me. Said Nevada was struggling. She'd moved to Vegas, was living alone, using drugs. He asked if I could help. Musk's jaw tightened. I sent money, paid for rehab, but I didn't actually help. Didn't visit. Didn't call. I was too busy with SpaceX, with Tesla, with saving the world. You blamed yourself when she relapsed. Of course I did. History repeating. Another Nevada I couldn't save. Musk stood and walked to the window. When Kimball called on March 14th and said she'd disappeared, I flew to Vegas immediately. Forgot about the Gigafactory meetings. Forgot about everything except finding her. Reverend Trish helped you search. She was incredible. She knew everyone. Homeless shelters, street ministries, hospital ERs. She made calls, asked questions, tracked leads. Musk turned from the window when she called me at 11:40 p.m. and said they'd found Nevada unconscious behind a convenience store. I drove 90 miles an hour to the hospital. But you were too late. Yes. When I got there, Dr. Tanaka told me Nevada had died 20 minutes earlier. Overdose. They'd done everything they could. Musk's voice broke slightly. I asked to see her body. Dr. Tanaka said no, not yet. There were procedures. But then she got a phone call from someone. When she hung up, she said, she's not here anymore. Someone took her to a church. Marcus leaned forward. What did you think? I thought it was insane. Who takes a body from a hospital to a church? Musk smiled bitterly. But Reverend Trish was with me. She said, that's Connor. He's praying for her. We should go there. So we went. What did you feel when you walked into that church and saw Nevada's body? Musk returned to his chair and sat heavily. I felt like I'd failed again. Like God. If God existed, was punishing me by taking another Nevada. I felt rage and guilt and despair all at once. He looked at Marcus directly, and I felt like nothing I'd built, nothing I'd accomplished, nothing I'd created mattered at all, because I couldn't save one 19-year-old girl I loved. What made you pray? What else could I do? Science had failed. Medicine had failed. Money meant nothing. The only option left was to beg. Musk's voice grew quiet. I'd never really prayed before. My family wasn't religious. I grew up believing in physics and engineering and human ingenuity, but that night I got on my knees and I begged someone, anyone, to help her. What did you say? I said, God, if you're real, if you're listening, I'll give everything. Take SpaceX, take Tesla, take every dollar I have. Just let her live. Please. I can't lose another Nevada. Please. Musk wiped his eyes. Pathetic, probably. Bargaining with a God I didn't believe in. But I was desperate. Then I arrived. Yes. You stumbled and looking destroyed. You asked if she was dead. When we said yes, you knelt down beside her and started praying. Musk looked at Marcus intensely. You were crying, saying, I couldn't save my sister. Let me help save someone else. And I realized we were all there for the same reason. All of us carrying someone we'd lost. All of us desperate for a miracle. What happened during the prayer? Musk was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer, more vulnerable than Marcus had ever heard from the normally confident billionaire. I felt something change. Not externally. Internally. Musk pressed his hand to his chest, like something broke open inside me. All the grief I'd buried for 23 years, losing my son, losing my first marriage, losing connection with people. Because I was too obsessed with my companies, it all came flooding out. You cried. I sobbed. Like a child. I held Nevada's cold hand, and I cried harder than I'd cried since my son died. Musk looked at his hands. And then I heard a voice. Marcus stopped writing. A voice? Not out loud. Inside my head. But clear as anything. Musk met his eyes. It said, she's not yours to lose. None of them are. They're loved beyond your comprehension. What did that mean to you? It meant I'd been trying to control everything. Trying to save humanity. Save the planet. Save everyone I loved through sheer force of will. But I couldn't. Musk's voice cracked. People aren't projects to be managed. Love isn't something you can engineer. Sometimes you have to surrender. Trust. Have faith in something bigger than yourself. And then Nevada opened her eyes. Yes. Musk smiled through his tears. I was holding her hand when her fingers moved. I looked at her face and saw color returning to her skin. Her chest moved. She took a breath. Her eyes opened. He paused. And she looked at me and said, Uncle Elon. I'm sorry. What did you say? I said, don't be sorry. I'm sorry. I should have been there for you. I love you. And I held her and cried and thanked God, a God I'd never believed in before, for giving me another chance. They sat in silence as night fell completely over Vegas. The city lights sparkled below, millions of people pursuing their dreams and desires, unaware that something impossible had happened in a small church just days ago. What changed for you after that night? Marcus asked. Everything. Musk stood and walked to the window again. I still run my companies. Still work on rockets and electric cars. But it's different now. I'm different. I understand that all the technology in the world can't replace love. Can't replace presence. Can't replace actually showing up for the people who need you. How has that changed your daily life? I see Nevada 3 times a week. We talk, really talk. I listen to her struggles with recovery. I tell her about my struggles with leadership, with balancing work and family. Musk turned back to Marcus. I've started going to that church every Sunday. Sitting in those simple wooden pews. Singing hymns I don't know the words to. Listening to Reverend Trish talk about grace and redemption. Do you believe in God now? Musk considered the question carefully. I believe in something beyond human understanding. Something that responds to love and faith and desperation. Whether that's the traditional God of Christianity or something else, I don't know. But I know it's real. I experienced it. What do you want people to take away from this story? That love is stronger than death. That miracles happen when broken people come together with honest hearts. That no matter how smart you are, or how much money you have, or how many companies you build, you still need faith. You still need community. You still need to surrender control sometimes and trust in something bigger. Marcus finished writing and closed his notebook. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for believing us. For not dismissing this as delusion or fraud. Musk walked Marcus to the door. When will you publish? Tomorrow. My editor wants it on her desk by morning. Are you afraid of the backlash? Terrified. Marcus admitted. This will probably end my career as a journalist. People will think I fabricated everything or had a breakdown after my sister died. Then why do it? Marcus thought about Maya. About her challenge to be brave enough to believe. About 7 people whose lives had been changed forever by one impossible night. Because it's the truth, he said simply. And truth matters more than reputation. Musk smiled. A genuine smile, not the practiced one Marcus had seen in interviews. Your sister would be proud of you. I hope so. She is. I don't know how I know, but I know. Musk opened the door. One more thing, Marcus. What happened that night, it wasn't just about Nevada coming back. It was about all of us coming back. Coming back from grief, from doubt, from despair. We all died a little that night. And we all came back to life. Marcus drove back to his hotel with those words echoing in his mind. We all died a little that night, and we all came back to life. It was true. Dawn had found hope again. Esperanza had found comfort. Connor's faith had been confirmed. Dr. Tanaka had glimpsed something beyond science. Elon Musk had learned to surrender control. Nevada had been given a second chance. And Marcus had found his sister again. Not physically but spiritually. He'd learned that death doesn't end love. It just changes its form. That Maya was still with him somehow. Still guiding him, still loving him from whatever place she'd gone. Back in his hotel room, Marcus opened his laptop and wrote the final section of his article, his own Tabsomo as the seventh witness. He described his grief over Maya, his panic attack on the Vegas streets, his stumbling into the church. He described praying for Nevada and asking Maya to help. And he described the moment when everything changed, when warmth touched his shoulders, and his sister's voice said, "Let go, Mark. Let go of the guilt. You did enough." He described watching Nevada open her eyes and absolutely knowing that something impossible had just happened. He wrote until the story was complete. 20,000 words. The most important thing he'd ever written. At 5:00 a.m., he emailed it to Sarah with a simple subject line, "The Vegas Miracle, a journalist's journey from skeptic to witness." Then he closed his laptop, lay on his bed, and slept. For the first time in 2 years, he didn't dream of Maya dying. He dreamed of her alive, smiling, telling him she was proud. Marcus woke to his phone ringing. Bright sunlight streamed through the hotel curtains. He grabbed his phone groggily. 9:47 a.m. He'd slept for nearly 5 hours. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. "Hello?" His voice was rough with sleep. "Marcus." Sarah's tone was unreadable. "I just finished your article." Marcus sat up, suddenly wide awake. His heart pounded. "And it's the most extraordinary thing I've ever read. And the most terrifying thing I've ever considered publishing." Marcus stood and walked to the window, looking out at Vegas in daylight, so different from its nighttime glamour. In sunlight, you could see the wear, the cracks, the reality beneath the illusion. "You don't believe it," he said. "I didn't say that." Sarah paused. "Marcus, I've known you for 8 years. You're the most skeptical, rational journalist I've ever worked with. You fact-check everything. You trust nothing. You build stories on evidence, not emotion." "I know. So when you write 20,000 words about witnessing a resurrection, when you put yourself in the story as a primary witness, I have to take it seriously." Sarah's voice grew quieter. "But Marcus, if we publish this, we'll both face consequences. Readers will accuse us of religious propaganda. Scientists will mock us. Other journalists will question our credibility." "I know all that." "Then why are you willing to risk it?" Marcus thought about the 7 witnesses. About their courage in telling him the truth, even knowing most people wouldn't believe them. "Because 7 people trusted me with the most important moment of their lives. Because I was there and I saw it and I can't unsee it." Marcus pressed his forehead against the cool glass. "And because my sister challenged me to be brave enough to believe in something I couldn't explain." "This is me being brave." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Marcus heard papers rustling on her end. "Okay," she finally said. "We'll publish it. But we're going to do this right. I want corroborating evidence. Photos, documents, medical records, whatever you can get. I want everything verified before this goes live." The medical records are protected by privacy laws. Dr. Tanaka falsified her report to protect her career. Then get Nevada to sign a release. Get her hospital records. Get the death certificate if one was filed. Sarah's voice turned sharp, professional. "And I want that security footage. Can Reverend Trish provide a copy?" "I'll ask." "Good, get me everything by tonight. We'll publish Sunday morning, gives us time to prepare for backlash and coordinate with our legal team." "Legal team?" "Marcus, we're publishing a story claiming Elon Musk witnessed a resurrection. His lawyers might have opinions about that." Sarah sighed. "But if he's willing to go on record confirming your account, that helps significantly." He is. I interviewed him last night. Get it in writing. Signed statement. I want every witness to provide written signed testimony confirming what they told you. Sarah paused. I'm protecting you, Marcus. And I'm protecting the magazine. Because once this publishes, everyone will try to tear it apart. We need to be bulletproof. After they hung up, Marcus made a list of what he needed. Signed statements from all 7 witnesses, Nevada's medical records with her permission, security footage from the church, photos of Nevada before and after, any documentation of her death and recovery. He started with the easiest, texting all 6 other witnesses asking for signed statements. Then he called Nevada. Marcus, is everything okay? She sounded cheerful, energetic. I need your help. My editor wants documentation before we publish. Would you be willing to sign a release for your medical records? Of course. What do I need to do? I'll email you a form. You'll need to sign it and have it notarized. It allows me to request your records from UMC Hospital. I can do that today. There's a notary at my recovery house. Nevada paused. Marcus, are you nervous? About publishing? Terrified. Good. That means you understand how big this is. Her voice softened. But you're doing the right thing. People need to know that miracles are real. That hope is real. Some people won't believe it. They'll say we're all lying or delusional. I know, but some people will believe. And for those people who've lost someone they love, people who've given up hope, this story might save their lives. Nevada's voice grew passionate. Marcus, I was ready to die. I'd given up, but 7 people who barely knew me refused to give up on me. They prayed when prayer seemed pointless. They believed when belief seemed stupid. And somehow impossibly I came back. If even one person reads our story and finds hope, isn't that worth the criticism? Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. Yes, it is. Then publish it. Tell the truth. And trust that the people who need to hear it will hear it. After hanging up, Marcus drove back to the International Church. Reverend Trish was in her office working on Sunday's sermon. Marcus. She looked up with a warm smile. I was wondering when you'd return. I need the security footage. My editor wants it for verification. Reverend Trish nodded slowly. I'll give you a copy. But Marcus, you should know, I've already received calls from reporters. Word is spreading that you're writing about what happened here. They're asking questions, offering money for interviews. What did you tell them? I told them to wait for your article, that you'd tell the story properly. She turned to her computer. But they're persistent. Once your story publishes, this church will be overwhelmed. News vans, curious visitors, skeptics wanting to debunk us, believers wanting to experience what we experienced. Marcus hadn't considered that. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disrupt your ministry. Don't apologize. This is God's work, not mine. If he wants this church to become famous, who am I to argue? Reverend Trish smiled. Besides, maybe it's good. Maybe people need to see that miracles don't happen in mega churches with million-dollar budgets. They happen in humble places where broken people bring their pain to God. She copied the security footage onto a flash drive and handed it to Marcus. Thank you, he said, for everything, for trusting me with this story. Thank you for having the courage to tell it. Reverend Trish stood and walked him to the door. Marcus, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Have you forgiven yourself yet? For not being there when Maya called? The question hit him like a punch. I'm working on it. Keep working. Because your sister has already forgiven you. God has already forgiven you. The only person still holding you accountable is you. Reverend Trish touched his arm gently. And that's a prison you need to escape. Not just for yourself, but so you can help others escape theirs. Marcus spent the rest of the day collecting documentation. Dawn sent a signed statement from the fire station. Esperanza's daughter helped her write and sign her testimony. Connor dropped off his statement in person, along with photos he'd taken of Nevada in the weeks before her overdose, showing her progression from healthy to struggling. Dr. Tanaka was harder to reach. She was on shift at the hospital and couldn't talk, but she sent a text. I'll sign a statement, but I can't falsify official records. My written testimony will acknowledge I was wrong in my initial report, that Nevada was actually dead, not unconscious. Are you okay with that? Marcus texted back. That's exactly what I need. Thank you for your honesty. By 6:00 p.m., Marcus had everything except Elon Musk's signed statement. He was about out call Nevada to ask for help reaching her uncle when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Chen. This is James Whitmore. I'm Mr. Musk's attorney. Marcus's stomach dropped. Hello. Mr. Musk asked me to contact you regarding the article you're writing. He'd like to provide a signed legal statement confirming his testimony, with the understanding that this statement may be used in your publication. That would be extremely helpful. I'm emailing it to you now. It's been reviewed and approved by Mr. Musk. Please note that this statement includes details of his personal experience that night, including references to his deceased son. Mr. Musk is aware this information is sensitive and has chosen to include it anyway. Marcus opened his email and found the document 3 pages of detailed testimony, signed and notarized. Musk had spared nothing. His grief, his desperate prayer, his experience of presence in the church, his transformation afterward. Thank you, Marcus said. Please tell Mr. Musk I'm grateful for his trust. Mr. Musk wanted me to tell you something else. He said if people attack you for writing this story, I'll defend you publicly. You're not alone in this. After the lawyer hung up, Marcus sat in his hotel room staring at all the documentation spread across his bed. Medical records showing Nevada clinically dead. Security footage showing her body lying lifeless. Testimony from 7 witnesses. Photos of Nevada before and after. The evidence was overwhelming. Undeniable. And yet Marcus knew that evidence wouldn't matter to skeptics. They'd find ways to explain it away: misdiagnosis, catalepsy, collective delusion, conspiracy, because accepting the evidence meant accepting something impossible. Meant accepting that miracles were real. His phone buzzed. A text from Connor. Group meeting tonight at the church. 8 p.m. All 7 witnesses. We want to pray over you before the story publishes. Marcus almost declined. He wasn't comfortable with group prayer, with public displays of faith. But then he remembered kneeling beside Nevada's body, praying desperately for her to live, asking his dead sister for help. He'd already participated in the most important prayer of his life. What was one more? At 7:55 p.m., Marcus arrived at the International Church. Cars filled the small parking lot more than he expected. Inside, the sanctuary glowed with candlelight. All 7 witnesses were there, plus a few others Marcus didn't recognize. Reverend Trish greeted him at the door. Marcus, welcome. Everyone's been waiting for you. Who are all these people? Friends of the church. People who've heard about what happened and want to support you. She led him to the front. They understand what you're risking by telling this story. They want you to know you're not alone. Marcus saw Dawn in his paramedic uniform, just off shift. Esperanza in her Sunday dress, rosary beads in her hands. Connor with his arm around Nevada, both of them smiling. Dr. Tanaka still in her hospital scrubs, looking exhausted but present. And sitting in the front row wearing jeans and a SpaceX t-shirt, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, sitting in a humble church, waiting to pray for a journalist. Everyone, Reverend Trish called out, Marcus is here. Let's begin. They gathered in a circle around Marcus. The 7 witnesses plus 20 others who'd come to support him. They joined hands. Marcus found himself between Esperanza and Nevada, their hands warm and solid, and Reverend Trish spoke first. God, we gather tonight to lift up Marcus as he prepares to share our story with the world. Give him courage when he faces criticism. Give him peace when he faces doubt. Remind him that truth is worth defending, even when it costs us dearly. Others prayed too. Dawn prayed for protection. Esperanza prayed in Spanish, her words flowing like music. Connor prayed with his characteristic passion, asking God to use Marcus's story to bring hope to desperate people. Then Nevada spoke. God, thank you for bringing Marcus into that church 3 nights ago. Thank you for using his pain to help save my life. Please bless him as he tells people about Maya, about love, about miracles. Let his words change hearts the way prayer changed mine. Dr. Tanaka surprised everyone by praying next. I don't know how to pray traditionally, but I want to say thank you for showing me that science isn't everything, that some things can't be measured or explained, but are still real. Help me live with that mystery. Help Marcus live with it too. Then Musk spoke. his voice quiet but clear. God, I spent my whole life trying to control everything, to solve every problem with technology and money. But you showed me that some things can't be controlled or bought. Love, faith, miracles. Help Marcus remember that as he writes. Help him convey not just what happened, but what it means that we're loved beyond our understanding, and that love is stronger than death. Finally, Reverend Trish asked Marcus if he wanted to pray. Marcus hadn't planned to. But standing in this circle, holding hands with people who trusted him with their most sacred experience, he felt words rising. I don't know how to pray properly, he began. But I want to say thank you. To all of you for trusting me. To Maya, for guiding me here. To God, if God is listening, for showing me that death isn't the end. For showing me that my sister's love is still real, still present, still helping people even now. His voice broke. I'm scared of what happens after I publish this story. But I'm more scared of staying silent. So please, give me courage. Give me strength. Help me tell this truth in a way that honors everyone who lived it. The circle tightened. Hands squeezed hands. And Marcus felt it, that same warmth he'd felt 3 nights ago. That same presence. That same sense of being part of something much bigger than himself. When the prayer ended, people hugged him. Strangers who'd never met him before told him they were proud of him, told him his sister would be proud. Esperanza held his face in her small, weathered hands and said, "You're not alone, hijo. You have family now. All of us. We're your family." Marcus broke down. Let these near strangers hold him while he cried. Let them see his fear and vulnerability and doubt, and they didn't judge him. They just loved him. At 10:00 p.m., Marcus returned to his hotel. He compiled all the documentation, wrote a cover memo for Sarah, and emailed everything to her. Subject line: complete verification package for Vegas miracle story. Then he opened his laptop and read through his article one final time. 20,000 words about 7 broken people, 1 impossible night, and the miracle that changed them all. It was good. Maybe the best thing he'd ever written. It was also career suicide. But as Marcus sat in that quiet hotel room, he realized he didn't care. Some truths were worth dying for professionally. Some stories demanded to be told regardless of cost. This was one of them. At 11:30 p.m., Sarah called. "I've reviewed everything," she said. "The documentation is solid. Legal cleared it. We're publishing tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time." "Okay." "Marcus, are you sure about this? Because once it's live, you can't take it back." Marcus thought about Maya. About her faith, her courage, her challenge to believe in something he couldn't explain. "I'm sure. Then get some sleep. Tomorrow's gonna be intense." But Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed watching the Vegas sky through the window, thinking about everything that had happened in the past 4 days. He'd come to Vegas as a skeptic, investigating a viral video. He was leaving as a witness to a miracle. Somewhere in this city, Nevada, Musk was sleeping peacefully in her recovery house, alive when she should be dead. Somewhere, Elon Musk was learning to be present instead of productive. Somewhere, Don was finding hope again after tragedy. Somewhere, Esperanza was discovering that love didn't end when the heart stopped. Somewhere, Connor's faith was being rewarded. Somewhere, Dr. Tanaka was learning to live with mystery. And somewhere, somehow, Marcus believed his sister Maya was smiling, proud of him, happy that he'd finally learned to believe. At 3:00 a.m. Vegas time, 6:00 a.m. Eastern, Marcus's phone exploded with notifications. The story was live, and the world was about to change. The first notification was from Twitter. Marcus's article had been shared 14,000 times in the first hour. The second was from his colleague Ben in New York. "Holy shit, Marcus. What did you just publish?" The third was from his mother. "Marcus, people are calling me asking if you had a breakdown. Please call me." Marcus sat up in bed, his hotel room still dark except for the glow of his phone screen. He opened Twitter and searched for his name. The reactions were exactly what he'd expected, and worse. 8 Science Matters. Journalist claims to witness resurrection in Vegas. This is what happens when grief destroys critical thinking. Day Rational Mind 42. Marcus Chen just ended his career. No serious publication should ever hire him again after this religious propaganda piece. Dr. James Harding, As a physician, I can confirm, people don't come back from clinical death after an hour. This is either fraud or delusion. But there were other voices too. A faith in reason. Whether you believe it or not, this is the most honest piece of journalism I've read in years. One man's journey from skepticism to faith. Maria Gonzalez, 88. I lost my son last year. Reading this gave me hope for the first time since. Thank you, Marcus Chen. A recovery warrior. I'm 3 months clean from heroin. Nevada's story just gave me a reason to stay clean. Miracles are real. Marcus's phone rang. Sarah, have you seen the response? She asked, without preamble. Some of it. We've had 200,000 page views in the first hour. The website crashed twice. Our email is flooded, half hate mail, half gratitude. Sarah sounded exhausted and exhilarated. CNN wants you for an interview. So does Fox News, NBC, BBC, and about 50 podcasts. I'm not doing interviews. Marcus, I told the story. That's enough. I'm not going to defend it or debate it. People can believe it or not. Marcus walked to the window. Dawn was breaking over Vegas, painting the desert sky pink and gold. The 7 witnesses agreed to let me tell their story, but they don't want to become circus attractions. Elon Musk is already a circus attraction, and he's texted me 3 times saying he's willing to do press. Marcus was surprised. He is? He said, and I quote, "If Marcus faces backlash for telling the truth, I'll stand beside him publicly. Schedule whatever interviews you want." Sarah paused. Marcus, do you understand what this means? The world's richest man is willing to go on record confirming he witnessed a resurrection. That's not just a story, that's a cultural earthquake. I need to talk to the others first. Make sure they're okay with media attention. Do it quickly. Every major news outlet is calling. We need to coordinate responses. After hanging up, Marcus texted the group chat Nevada had created for all 7 witnesses. The story is published. Media requests are coming. We need to talk about how to handle this. Responses came quickly. Connor, I'm ready to share. This is what I've been preparing for my whole life. Don, I'll do interviews if needed. But I want to keep the focus on the miracle, not on me. Esperanza. My daughter says reporters are already calling our house. I don't know what to tell them. Dr. Tanaka. I'm getting questions from colleagues. Some supportive, most skeptical. I knew this would happen. Nevada Uncle Elon wants to do a joint interview with you, Marcus. He thinks it'll help people believe if they see us together. Reverend Trish. There are news vans outside the church. People are gathering, some praying, some protesting. Marcus, what have we started? Marcus called an emergency meeting at the church for 10:00 a.m. Then he tried to sleep but couldn't. His mind raced with worry about what he'd unleashed. He'd wanted to tell the truth. But had he considered the consequences? The disruption to these people's lives? The scrutiny? The criticism? The invasion of privacy? At 8:00 a.m., his phone rang again. His mother, Marcus. Her voice was tight with worry. What is happening? Your aunt in Seattle called saying you've lost your mind. Your father's colleagues are asking if you had a mental breakdown. Mom, I'm fine. I witnessed something impossible and I wrote about it. That's all. That's all? Marcus, you're claiming you saw a dead girl come back to life. Her voice rose. Do you know how this sounds? Do you know what people are saying about our family? Marcus felt anger rise. I don't care what people say. I care about truth. Truth? Or grief making you see things that weren't there? His mother's voice softened. Honey, I know losing Maya was devastating, but claiming she helped resurrect someone that's not healthy. That's not dealing with your grief properly. You didn't see what I saw. Exactly. I didn't see it. No one saw it, except 7 people who all happened to be in emotional crisis. His mother sighed. Marcus, please, talk to someone. A therapist. Someone who can help you process. I have to go. Marcus hung up, his hands shaking. His own mother thought he was delusional. What would the rest of the world think? He showered, dressed, and drove to the International Church. It was only 9:15 a.m., but the parking lot was already crowded. News vans lined the street. A group of people stood outside the church entrance. Some holding signs that said miracles are real and we believe, others holding signs that said fraud and prove it. Marcus parked a block away and walked toward the church, keeping his head down. But someone recognized him. That's him. That's Marcus Chen. Suddenly reporters surrounded him. Microphones thrust in his face. Cameras flashing. Mr. Chen, do you stand by your story? Are you aware that medical experts are calling your article fraudulent? Did Elon Musk pay you to write this? What do you say to critics who claim this is religious propaganda? Marcus pushed through the crowd without answering. A security guard, someone the church must have hired overnight, helped him get through the door. Inside, the sanctuary was quiet. All 7 witnesses sat in the front pews waiting for him. I'm sorry, Marcus said immediately. I didn't think it would explode like this. Don't apologize. Reverend Trish stood. We knew this would happen. We chose to tell our story anyway. But your church is surrounded by protesters and reporters. Your lives are being invaded. Better that than staying silent. Connor walked toward Marcus. People need to hear this story, need to know that miracles happen, need to know there's hope beyond what they can see or understand. Nevada nodded. I've already gotten 50 messages from people in recovery saying my story gave them hope. If even one person stays clean because of what we shared, isn't that worth the chaos? What about you, Dr. Tanaka? Marcus looked at the physician. What are your colleagues saying? Dr. Tanaka smiled grimly. That I've destroyed my credibility, that I should retire before I'm fired. That grief over my brother made me see things that weren't there. She shrugged. But I was there. I checked Nevada's vitals. She was dead. Then she was alive. That's not delusion. That's observation. The hospital administrator called me this morning, she continued. They're conducting an internal review of what happened that night. They might suspend me pending investigation. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I knew the risks. Dr. Tanaka looked at Nevada. And every time I see her alive, I know it was worth it. Elon Musk stood from where he'd been sitting quietly in the back. I've been fielding calls from my board members since 6 a.m. Some think I've lost my mind. Some think this is a publicity stunt. Some are genuinely concerned about my mental health. He walked to the front of the church. But I don't care, because I knelt right here. He pointed to the spot in front of the altar. And I begged God to save my niece. And he did. That's reality. Everything else is just noise. Dawn spoke up. I've gotten support from my fellow firefighters and paramedics. Most of them have seen things on calls they can't explain. They believe me. Esperanza added, my daughter is fielding calls at our apartment, but my friends from church from work, they believe. They've seen how God works in small ways every day. Why wouldn't he work in big ways too? Marcus looked at these 7 people who'd entrusted him with their story. They were facing consequences, professional scrutiny, public mockery, personal attacks. But they stood firm. What do we do now? He asked. Reverend Trish answered. We tell the truth calmly and consistently. We don't argue with skeptics. That's futile. We simply share what we experienced and let people decide for themselves. Elon wants us to do a joint interview, Nevada said. CNN offered prime time. What do you think? Marcus considered. If we do it together. All 7 of us. Show the world that this wasn't one person's delusion. It was 7 people witnessing the same event. Agreed, Musk said. I'll arrange it. But there's something we need to address first. What? The security footage. Some people are claiming it's edited or fake. Musk looked at Reverend Trish. We need to release the full, unedited footage. Let people see exactly what happened. Reverend Trish hesitated. That footage shows 7 people at their most vulnerable. Marcus praying desperately. You crying. Nevada's body lying lifeless. Are we ready for the world to see that? We have to be, Connor said. Because right now, skeptics are controlling the narrative. They're saying we made this up for attention or money. But if people see the footage, see Nevada dead, see her come back, they'll have to reckon with what actually happened. Marcus thought about the footage he'd watched. The raw emotion. The desperation. The impossible moment when Nevada gasped and opened her eyes. It's powerful, he agreed, but it's also sacred. Are we comfortable with it going viral? With people analyzing it frame by frame, looking for evidence of fraud? Let them look, Dr. Tanaka said firmly. I'm a doctor. I know what death looks like on camera. Nevada's skin color, her complete stillness. The lack of any chest movement, all of that is visible in the footage. Any medical professional who watches it honestly will see she was dead. Then we release it, Musk decided. Reverend Trish, can you provide the raw file? Unedited with metadata intact proving it's authentic? Yes, but I want you all to watch it again first. Together. Make sure you're ready for the world to see your most vulnerable moment. They gathered around Reverend Trish's computer in her small office. She pulled up the footage and pressed play. Marcus watched himself stumble into the church at 11:52 p.m. Watched himself see Nevada's body and fall to his knees. Watched himself pray with desperate intensity, tears streaming down his face. It was uncomfortable seeing himself that vulnerable, that broken, that open, but it was also beautiful. Because in that moment, Marcus had stopped hiding behind skepticism and professionalism. He'd let himself feel, believe, hope even though hope seemed foolish. The footage showed all 7 witnesses in their rawest form. Connor's passionate faith, Esperanza's maternal grief, Don's weary hope, Dr. Tanaka's scientific confusion, meeting spiritual possibility, Elon Musk's complete surrender of control, Nevada's lifeless body. And then, at 12:13 a.m., the miracle. Nevada's chest rising, her hand moving, her eyes opening. 7 people reacting with shock, joy, tears, laughter. It was undeniable. Impossible to fake. Too genuine to be staged. This is going to change everything, Dr. Tanaka whispered. It already has, Marcus replied. They released the footage at noon. Reverend Trish uploaded it to the church's website with a simple statement. Unedited security footage from March 14-15, 2025. 7 witnesses. 1 miracle. You decide. Within an hour, it had 10 million views. Within 3 hours, it was trending worldwide. The responses were immediate and intense. Medical professionals analyzed every frame. Some insisted Nevada had been in a coma, not dead. Others admitted they couldn't explain the skin discoloration, the complete absence of movement, the sudden recovery. Religious leaders called it proof of God's power. Atheists called it a hoax. Agnostics said it was fascinating but inconclusive. But millions of ordinary people, people who'd lost someone they loved, people struggling with addiction, people desperate for hope, watched the footage and cried. They saw themselves in those 7 witnesses. Saw their own grief in Marcus's desperate prayer. Saw their own doubt in Dr. Tanaka's scientific confusion. Saw their own need for miracles in Connor's fierce faith. And they believed. At 3:00 p.m. Marcus's phone rang. CNN. Mr. Chen, I'm calling from Anderson Cooper's production team. Mr. Musk's people contacted us about a joint interview. We'd like to host all 7 witnesses tomorrow night. Prime time. 1-hour special. Marcus looked at the others who were monitoring social media responses in Reverend Trish's office. They all nodded. We'll do it, Marcus said. But we have conditions. Name them. No gotcha questions. No attempts to discredit us on air. This isn't a debate, it's 7 people sharing their testimony. You can ask tough questions, but you have to let us answer fully. Agreed. Anything else? We want a medical expert to analyze the footage live. Someone credible who can speak to what they see objectively. We can arrange that. After finalizing details, Marcus hung up and looked at his 6 companions. Tomorrow night, the world is going to hear our story. All of it. Are we ready? No, Esperanza said honestly. But we're doing it anyway. That evening, Marcus returned to his hotel to find his email flooded with messages. Thousands of them. Some were hateful. You're a fraud and a liar. You've destroyed journalism. I hope you lose everything for spreading this religious nonsense. You should be ashamed of exploding grief for clicks. But many more were hopeful. I lost my daughter to cancer last year. Your story helped me believe she's still with me somehow. Thank you. I was planning to use drugs tonight. I read Nevada's story and decided not to. Thank you for saving my life. I've been an atheist for 40 years. I don't know what I believe now, but I'm willing to consider that miracles might be real. Marcus read every message. The grateful ones made him cry. The angry ones made him sad. Not for himself, but for people so locked in skepticism they couldn't even consider the possibility of hope. At midnight, Marcus called his mother back. Mom, I'm sorry I hung up on you. She was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. You don't have to believe me. I just need you to trust that I'm not crazy. I watched the footage, she said softly. The security camera footage from the church. Marcus's heart beat faster. And I don't know what to think. But I know my son. You're careful, rational, honest. If you say you witnessed something impossible. Her voice cracked. Maybe I should believe you. Thank you. Marcus, when Maya was dying, she told me something. She said, when I'm gone, Mark is gonna struggle. He's gonna need proof that I'm still there somehow. Promise me you'll help him believe. His mother started crying. I didn't know what she meant. But maybe this is it. Maybe she sent you to that church. Maybe she did help that girl. Maybe love really is stronger than death. Marcus cried too. I believe she is, Mom. I believe Maya is okay. And I believe she's proud of me. I believe that too. After they hung up, Marcus lay in bed thinking about the interview tomorrow. 7 witnesses would face the world's scrutiny. Would share their most sacred experience. Would risk everything to tell a truth most people wouldn't believe. But it was worth it. Because somewhere tonight, someone was reading their story and finding hope. Someone was watching the footage and believing miracles were possible. Someone was deciding to live instead of die. And that made everything, the criticism, the career risk, the public mockery, worth it. At 2:30 a.m., Marcus finally fell asleep, and he dreamed of Maya again. But this time, she wasn't alone. She stood with Nevada, both of them glowing with light, both of them smiling. And Maya said, "Well done, little brother. Well done." Marcus woke at 6:00 a.m. to sunlight streaming through the hotel curtains, and his phone buzzing with messages. The CNN interview was scheduled for 7:00 p.m. Eastern, 4:00 p.m. Vegas time. They had less than 12 hours to prepare. He showered quickly and checked the news. The story had exploded overnight. Every major publication had covered it. Some supportive, most skeptical, all fascinated. The New York Times. Viral resurrection claim divides nation. Faith versus science. The Washington Post. 7 witnesses. One impossible story inside the Vegas miracle. The Guardian. Elon Musk's conversion, grief, faith, or something else. But the most surprising coverage came from medical journals. The Lancet had published an emergency editorial titled "The Nevada Musk Case: When Medical Evidence Challenges Our Understanding." It didn't confirm the miracle, but it acknowledged that the documentation was troubling for skeptics. Genuine medical records, credible witnesses, unexplainable recovery. Marcus dressed and drove to the church. A crowd had gathered outside, larger than yesterday. Some people prayed. Some held candles. Some stood quietly, just wanting to be near the place where something impossible had happened. Inside, CNN's production crew was setting up cameras and lights. Anderson Cooper himself was there, reviewing notes with his producers. The 7 witnesses gathered in Reverend Trish's office for a final meeting before the interview. "I want to go over our approach," Marcus said. "We're not here to convince skeptics. We're here to share what we experienced. Calmly. Honestly. Without defensiveness." "What if Anderson asks hostile questions?" Don asked. "Answer truthfully. If he questions our credibility, we acknowledge that we understand why people are skeptical, but we stand by what we saw." Marcus looked at each person. "Remember, we're not on trial. We're bearing witness." Nevada spoke up. "I want to talk about my experience when I was dead. About meeting Maya. Is that okay?" Marcus hesitated. That was the most controversial part. Nevada's claim that she'd met his sister in death. "It's your truth," he said finally. "If you feel called to share it, share it. Some people will think I hallucinated," Nevada said, "but I know what I experienced. And maybe someone watching needs to hear that death isn't the end, that people we love are still with us somehow." Elon Musk cleared his throat. "I want to address something. There are rumors that I paid everyone participate in an elaborate publicity stunt. That this is marketing for some new Tesla feature or SpaceX project." He looked around the circle. "I'm going to state clearly on air that I received nothing from this. In fact, it's cost me board members questioning my judgment, investors worried about my mental state, critics saying I've lost touch with reality." "Why do it then?" Dr. Tanaka asked. "Why risk your reputation?" "Because reputation without truth is worthless. Musk leaned forward. I've spent my life building companies, making money, pursuing achievements. But none of that saved Nevada. None of that brought her back. Love did. Faith did. Prayer did. And if I stay silent about that to protect my image, what kind of man am I? Connor nodded. That's what people need to hear. That this isn't about religion or science or pouring anything. It's about 7 broken people who experienced love defeating death. And that changed us forever. At 3:00 p.m., they gathered in the sanctuary. The production crew had set up a semicircle of chairs facing Anderson Cooper. Bright lights illuminated the simple altar, the wooden cross, the place where Nevada had died and lived. Anderson Cooper walked over to greet them personally. He was professional but warm, shaking each person's hand. "Thank you all for doing this," he said. "I know it's not easy putting yourselves out there like this." "Have you watched the full security footage?" Marcus asked. 3 times. Anderson's expression was unreadable. "It's remarkable. Whatever happened in this church that night, it's captured on camera. That's rare in stories like this." "You don't believe it," Dr. Tanaka observed. "I don't know what I believe," Anderson said honestly. "But I believe you all believe it, and I believe something happened that you can't explain. That's enough to make it worth exploring." At 4:00 p.m. Pacific, 7:00 p.m. Eastern, they went live. 23 million people were watching. Anderson Cooper opened the broadcast. "Good evening. I'm coming to you tonight from the International Church of Las Vegas, where 5 days ago something extraordinary allegedly occurred. 7 people, including billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk, claim they witnessed a 19-year-old woman come back from death after prayer. Tonight, all 7 witnesses are here to tell their story." The camera panned across their faces, each one serious, calm, ready. "Let's start with the basic facts," Anderson continued. On the night of March 14th, Nevada Musk, niece of Elon Musk, suffered a drug overdose. She was taken to University Medical Center where she was pronounced dead by Dr. Yuki Tanaka at 11:04 p.m. "Is that correct, Dr. Tanaka?" Dr. Tanaka nodded. "Yes. Nevada had no pulse, no respiration, fixed and dilated pupils. I performed standard death protocols. She was dead. Yet you later allowed her body to be taken from the hospital to this church." "Why?" Connor Wade asked me to. At the time, I couldn't explain why I agreed. It violated every protocol, but something compelled me to help him. Compelled how? Like a voice, not audible, but internal, telling me to let him try, to see what would happen. Anderson turned to Connor. "You asked to bring a dead body to a church to pray over it. That's an unusual request." Connor smiled slightly. "I've seen unusual things happen when people pray with real faith. I believed God could bring Nevada back. So I asked, and you believed this because God brought me back from addiction. Because I've seen him work in ways science can't explain. Because sometimes faith is the only option left when everything else fails." Anderson looked at his notes. "Mr. Musk, you arrived at the church at 11:47 p.m. What was your mental state?" Elon Musk met the camera directly. "I was destroyed. My niece, who I'd failed to protect, was dead. I'd spent 3 weeks searching for her. I'd failed, and I was about to lose another Nevada." His voice caught. "My first son was named Nevada. He died at 10 weeks old. SIDS. I never processed that grief. Just buried it, and worked harder. When this Nevada died, it felt like losing my son again." "So you prayed?" "Yes. For the first time in my adult life, I got on my knees and begged God to help her. I said I'd give everything SpaceX, Tesla, every dollar if she could just live. You're one of the richest people in the world. You have access to the best medical care, the most advanced technology. Yet you prayed instead of seeking more medical intervention. Medical intervention had failed. Technology had failed. Money was worthless." Musk leaned forward. "In that moment, I understood something I'd never understood before. There are forces more powerful than human achievement. Love, faith, grace. Things you can't buy or engineer or control." Anderson turned to Marcus. "Mr. Chen, you're an investigative journalist known for skeptical, fact-based reporting. Yet you're claiming you witnessed a miracle. And more, that you were there that night but forgot about it. Why should people believe you?" Marcus took a breath. They shouldn't believe me just because I say it. They should look at the evidence. 7 witnesses with consistent testimonies. Medical records showing Nevada was pronounced dead. Security footage showing her lifeless body. Documentation of her complete recovery with no brain damage or organ failure. But you admit you forgot being there initially. Doesn't that undermine your credibility as a witness? I forgot because my brain couldn't process what I'd seen. I'd lost my sister 2 years ago. I'd prayed for her to live and she died anyway. Walking into that church and seeing another young woman dead, it broke something in me. My mind protected me by suppressing the memory until I was ready to face it. And what made you ready? Hearing the other witnesses. Meeting Nevada live. Understanding that sometimes miracles happen even when we don't believe in them. Anderson looked at Nevada. You're at the center of this story. You were pronounced clinically dead. Yet here you are. What do you remember from that night? Nevada sat up straighter. I remember using drugs behind a convenience store. I remember realizing I'd taken too much. I remember darkness not scary, just empty. Silent. Nothing else? Not at first. But then I heard voices, far away, calling my name. I tried to move toward them but couldn't. I had no body. Nevada's voice was steady but emotional. Then I heard one voice clearly, a woman. She said, "Not yet, child. You have work to do." What did this voice sound like? Kind. Loving. Like someone who understood pain. Nevada looked at Marcus. Then I saw her. A woman made of light. She smiled at me and said her brother was praying for me. She said she was going to help me go back. Anderson followed her gaze to Marcus. Mr. Chen, Nevada claims she met your deceased sister while she was dead. What do you make of that claim? Marcus felt 23 million people waiting for his answer. 3 weeks ago, I would have said it was impossible. A hallucination caused by oxygen deprivation or drug toxicity. He paused. But Nevada described Maya perfectly, details she couldn't have known. My sister's appearance. Her personality. Things she said to me privately. And Nevada delivered a message from Maya that only my sister would know to send. Which was that I should stop blaming myself for not being there when Maya called from the hospital. That I gave Maya the gift of being herself. That she's okay wherever she is now. Marcus's voice broke. And that love doesn't end when the body dies. Anderson turned to the camera. We have with us Dr. Richard Foster, a cardiologist from Johns Hopkins who reviewed the security footage and medical documentation. Dr. Foster, what's your professional assessment? A man appeared via video feed. I've examined the available evidence carefully. The medical records show Nevada was pronounced dead after 23 minutes of failed resuscitation. The security footage shows what appears to be a deceased person's skin discoloration consistent with death, complete absence of movement or respiration, fixed positioning. Is there any medical explanation for her recovery? Dr. Foster hesitated. Not one that fits conventional understanding. If Nevada had been in some form of deep coma or catalepsy, we'd expect brain damage after that length of time without oxygen. We'd expect organ damage from the drug overdose. But her hospital records show neither. She had complete recovery with no deficits. So you're saying this is medically impossible? I'm saying I can't explain it medically. Whether that means it's a miracle or simply something we don't yet understand, I can't say. Anderson turned back to the witnesses. Reverend Okafor, as a pastor, how do you interpret what happened? Reverend Trish spoke with quiet authority. 7 broken people came together in this humble church, each carrying grief, doubt, or desperation, each needing something beyond themselves. And when they prayed together, not perfectly, not formally, just honestly, God responded, not because they deserved it, not because they had great faith, but because love is stronger than death. Do you think this miracle was specifically for these 7 people, or meant as a message to the world? Both. God met each person's specific need that night. But he also showed all of us that death isn't the final word. That hope is real. That miracles still happen, not in megachurches with million-dollar budgets, but in small places where desperate people bring their pain to God. Anderson looked at Esperanza. Mrs. Reyes, you've suffered tremendous loss. Your husband and son both died within weeks of Nevada's overdose. Yet you were praying in this church that night. Why? Esperanza's voice was soft but clear. I had nowhere else to go. No answers. No comfort. Just pain. So I came here every night and prayed. Not nice prayers, but angry prayers. Asking God why he took everyone I love. Did you get an answer? Yes. That night I learned that God doesn't take people from us. Death does. But God gives life, even when death thinks it's won. Esperanza's eyes filled with tears. I saw Nevada dead on this floor. I thought another mother will lose her child. But then we prayed. And God said no, not this time. This time, love wins. Mr. Cross, Anderson addressed Don. You're a paramedic. You see death regularly. What made this different? Don spoke carefully. I just come from the worst call of my career. A family of 4 dead in a car accident. When I walked into this church and saw Nevada's body, I thought, not again. I can't watch another person die. But Connor said, pray with us. So I did, not because I believed it would work, but because I didn't know what else to do. And when she came back, I checked her vitals immediately. Professional instinct. She had a strong pulse, clear breathing, reactive pupils. Everything indicated life where there had been death minutes before. Don looked at the camera. I don't know how to explain it, but I know what I saw. And it gave me hope that maybe, just maybe, all the deaths I witness aren't final. Maybe there's something more. Anderson turned to face the camera. What we've heard tonight defies conventional explanation. 7 credible witnesses. A billionaire entrepreneur, a physician, a paramedic, a journalist, a pastor, a grieving mother, and a young woman in recovery, all describing the same impossible event. Security footage that appears to confirm their account. Medical records showing clinical death followed by complete recovery. He paused. Can we prove a miracle occurred? No. Science deals with what's measurable and repeatable. This event was neither. But can we dismiss these testimonies? That seems equally difficult. So we're left with mystery. With questions that don't have easy answers. With 7 people who experienced something that changed their lives forever. Anderson looked at the witnesses one final time. If you could say one thing to the millions of people watching, what would it be? Connor spoke first. That hope is real. Even when everything seems impossible, don't give up. Keep praying. Keep believing. Because love is stronger than death. Esperanza added that our loved ones who have passed, they're not gone completely. Love doesn't end when the heart stops. Dr. Tanaka said that science doesn't have all the answers. There's mystery in the aviar, and that's okay. We can live with mystery. Don offered that even in the darkest moments, when you've witnessed tragedy and feel hopeless, there's still light, still possibility, still reason to believe. Reverend Trish proclaimed that miracles don't just happen in the Bible or history books. They happen now. In humble places. To ordinary people. When we come together with honest hearts. Elon Musk declared that money and technology and human achievement, while important, aren't everything. Sometimes you have to surrender control. Trust in something bigger than yourself. Have faith. Nevada looked directly at the camera. That if you're struggling with addiction, if you've given up hope, if you think your life doesn't matter, you're wrong. Your life has value. People care about you. And miracles can happen. They happen to me. They can happen to you. Finally, Marcus spoke. That grief doesn't have to end in despair. That losing someone you love doesn't mean you'll never feel connected to them again. My sister died 2 years ago, and I thought that was the end. But somehow, in ways I can't fully understand, Maya is still with me, still helping people, still loving me. And if that's true for Maya, maybe it's true for everyone we've lost. Maybe love really is eternal. Anderson Cooper looked into the camera. 7 witnesses. One impossible story. You decide what to believe. Thank you for watching. The broadcast ended. For a moment, no one moved. They sat in the bright lights, emotionally exhausted, wondering how the world would respond. Then, Anderson stood and shook each person's hand again. That was extraordinary. Whatever happens next, you all showed tremendous courage tonight. As the crew packed up equipment, the 7 witnesses gathered in a circle in front of the altar, the same place where Nevada had died and lived. They didn't say anything. They just held hands. And in that moment, Marcus felt it again, the warmth on his shoulders, the sense of presence, certainty that something bigger than all of them was at work. Outside, the crowd had grown. Hundreds of people filled the parking lot, the street, the surrounding blocks. When the witnesses emerged from the church, the crowd erupted, some cheering, some crying, some singing hymns. A woman pushed through the crowd toward Nevada. "Thank you," she sobbed. "My daughter died of an overdose last year. Your story helped me believe she's at peace. Thank you." A man approached Elon Musk. "I'm a recovering addict. 3 years clean. I almost relapsed tonight. But I watched your interview and remembered miracles are real. Thank you for your honesty." An elderly couple stopped Marcus. "We lost our son 20 years ago. We've grieved ever since. But tonight, hearing you talk about your sister, we felt him. We felt our son telling us he's okay. Thank you for giving us that." The 7 witnesses stayed for hours, talking to people, praying with them, offering hope. And Marcus realized this was why they'd told their story. Not to convince skeptics, not to prove anything, but to give hope to people who desperately needed it. To let grieving families know love continues beyond death. To let addicts know recovery is possible. To let skeptics know mystery is acceptable. To let everyone know that miracles, real, impossible, beautiful miracles still happen. At midnight, exhausted and emotionally drained, Marcus finally returned to his hotel. His phone showed thousands of messages. News outlets requesting follow-up interviews. People sharing how the story had affected them. Critics still calling it fraud. But Marcus didn't care about critics anymore. He'd told the truth. 7 people had witnessed a miracle. And now the world knew. Some would believe, some wouldn't. That was okay. The truth didn't need everyone's approval to remain true. Marcus opened his laptop and began writing one final piece. A personal reflection on everything that had happened. Not for publication necessarily, just for himself. He wrote about grief and healing. About skepticism and faith. About his journey from journalist investigating a story to witness experiencing a miracle. And he wrote about Maya, how losing her had nearly destroyed him, but how this experience had somehow brought her back to him in a new way. She wasn't physically here, but she was present somehow. In memories, in love, in the way her life continued to affect people even after death. At 2:00 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. An unknown number. He almost didn't answer. But something made him pick up. "Hello? Marcus Chen?" A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. "Yes. My name is Catherine Morrison. I'm calling from Seattle. Her voice broke. "I watched your interview tonight. I need to tell you something." "Okay." 3 days ago, I was planning to kill myself. I'd lost my husband to cancer. My son moved across the country. I felt completely alone. I'd written the note. I had the pills." Catherine started crying. "But tonight I watched your interview. I watched Nevada talk about coming back from death. I watched you talk about your sister still being with you somehow. And I thought maybe my husband is still with me too. Maybe I'm not as alone as I think." Marcus felt tears spring to his eyes. "I flushed the pills," Catherine continued. "I tore up the note. I called my son. We talked for 2 hours. I'm going to be okay, Marcus. Because your story gave me hope. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to tell it." After they hung up, Marcus sat in the darkness of his hotel room and cried. One life saved. That made everything worth it. The criticism, the career risk, the mockery, all worth it. Because Catherine Morrison was alive. Because hope was real. Because miracles still happened. And because Maya, wherever she was still helping people. Still loving her brother. Still proving that death wasn't the end. Marcus looked at the Vegas sky through his window and whispered, "Thank you, Maya, for everything." And somehow, impossibly, he felt her answer, "You're welcome, little brother. Now go live. Really live. That's how you honor me." Marcus smiled through his tears. And for the first time in 2 years, he believed he could. 3 days after the CNN interview, Marcus stood in the Las Vegas airport, waiting for his flight back to San Francisco. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the broadcast. The interview had been watched by 67 million people worldwide. It was the most viewed CNN special in 5 years. The response had been overwhelming. Religious leaders called it a sign from God. Atheist groups called it mass delusion. Medical journals requested permission to study Nevada's case. Hollywood producers offered millions for the film rights, and millions of ordinary people, grieving, hoping, desperate, reached out to say the story had changed their lives. Marcus had given 14 more interviews in 3 days. So had the other witnesses. They'd become accidental ambassadors for the impossible, representing people who'd experienced something beyond explanation. But now Marcus needed to go home, process everything, figure out what his life looked like after witnessing a miracle. His phone rang. Connor. Hey, Marcus answered. Everything okay? Yeah. I'm at the church with the others. We wanted to say goodbye before you left. Connor paused. And there's something we need to give you. What? You'll see. Can you come by before your flight? Marcus checked his watch. 2 hours before boarding. I'll be there in 30 minutes. He took an Uber to the International Church. The media circus had finally calmed. Only a few reporters remained, along with a steady stream of visitors who wanted to see the place where the miracle happened. Inside, all 7 witnesses waited. They'd gathered in front of the altar, sitting in a semicircle just like they had for the CNN interview. We wanted to see you before you left, Reverend Trish said, standing to embrace him. To thank you properly. Thank me? I should be thanking all of you. You trusted me with your story. You did more than tell our story, Elon Musk said. He stood, looking less like a billionaire CEO and more like a regular person who'd been through something profound. You helped us understand what happened. By investigating it, documenting it, asking the hard questions, you gave us language for the experience. Nevada approached Marcus with a small box. We all agreed you should have this. Marcus opened the box. Inside was a simple silver cross on a chain, the kind you could buy at any jewelry store. Nothing expensive or elaborate. It belonged to my son Daniel. Esperanza explained. He wore it every day. After he died, I couldn't look at it without crying. But now, she smiled through tears. Now I see it differently. It reminds me that death isn't the end. That Daniel is with God. That I'll see him again. I can't take this, Marcus said. It's too important. That's exactly why you should have it. Esperanza insisted. Because you helped me see that Daniel's death has meaning. That his life continues to matter. That love doesn't end. She took the cross from the box and placed it around Marcus's neck. Wear it. Remember what we witnessed together. Remember that your sister's love is still real. Marcus touched the cross, overwhelmed by emotion. There's something else, Dr. Tanaka said. She pulled out an envelope. This is Nevada's complete medical file, with her permission. Every test, every scan, every record from before and after her death. I've submitted it to 3 major medical journals for peer review. What will they do with it? Probably reject it as anomalous. Or try to explain it away. Dr. Tanaka smiled. But some doctors will see it and wonder. We'll question their assumptions. We'll consider that maybe there's more to human existence than biological processes, and that questioning, that openness to mystery, that matters. Don stepped forward next. I've been thinking about what happened, about why God brought 7 specific people together that night. We were all carrying different pain, searching for different answers. But we found the same truth. Which is, Marcus asked, that we're not meant to carry pain alone. That community matters. That when broken people come together honestly, miracles become possible. Dawn looked around the circle. We're family now. The 7 of us, connected forever by what we witnessed. Connor nodded enthusiastically. That's why we wanted to give you this. He handed Marcus a photo. All 7 of them together, taken by a church member after the CNN interview. They stood in front of the altar, arms around each other, smiling. We signed the back, Nevada said. Marcus turned the photo over. Each person had written a message. Reverend Trish. God works in humble places through humble people. Thank you for your humility. Esperanza. Hijo, you helped me find hope again. May you always remember, love never ends. Dawn. You showed me that journalists can be truth tellers, not just story sellers. Keep seeking truth. Connor, faith isn't believing without questions. It's believing despite them. You've learned that now. Dr. Tanaka, thank you for helping me embrace mystery. Science is better when it admits its limits. Elon Musk, you taught me that some stories are more important than any company I could build. Tell more stories like this. Nevada, you asked Maya to help save me. She did. Now I'm asking you to help save others by telling true stories about hope. Marcus read each message twice, his vision blurring with tears. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Reverend Trish replied, just carry this with you. Remember what you witnessed. And when people ask if miracles are real, tell them yes. Tell them you were there. Tell them you saw love defeat death. They formed a circle one last time, joining hands around the altar. Reverend Trish led them in prayer, not asking for anything, just thanking God for bringing them together, for the miracle they'd witnessed, for the community they'd become. When the prayer ended, Marcus hugged each person. Long, genuine embraces between people who'd been through something extraordinary together. When he got to Nevada, she held him tightly and whispered, Maya told me to tell you one more thing. She said, tell Marcus to write the truth, even when it scares him, especially when it scares him. That's when truth matters most. Marcus pulled back to look at her. When did she tell you that? When I was dead. When she was helping me come back. Nevada smiled. I didn't include it in the interview because it felt private, but you need to hear it now. You're about to face a choice, Marcus. And Maya wants you to choose truth. What choice? You'll know when it comes. Marcus left the church and drove to the airport, Nevada's cryptic message echoing in his mind. You're about to face a choice. Choose truth. At the airport, he checked in and went through security. He had 90 minutes before boarding, so he found a quiet corner near his gate and pulled out his laptop. His email inbox had 4,847 unread messages. Most were responses to the story, some supportive, many critical, all passionate. But one subject line caught his attention. Offer from Senator Margaret Hartley's office. Marcus opened it. Mr. Chen, I'm writing on behalf of Senator Margaret Hartley, DCA. The senator watched your CNN interview and was deeply moved by your story. She's currently leading a Senate committee investigating the opioid crisis and addiction treatment funding. The senator would like to invite you and Nevada Musk to testify before the committee. Your story, particularly Nevada's recovery and second chance, could significantly impact legislation that might save thousands of lives. This is a rare opportunity to turn your personal experience into policy change. Please let me know if you're interested. Best regards, James Chen, Chief of Staff. Marcus stared at the email. This was big. Testifying before Congress could amplify their message, help fund addiction treatment, save lives, but it would also mean more exposure, more scrutiny, more time away from his normal life. Then another email arrived, this one from his editor, Sarah. Marcus, we need to talk. Call me as soon as you can. He dialed her number immediately. Marcus. Sarah's voice was tense. I'm going to be direct. The magazine's board is concerned about the backlash from your story. We've lost 3 major advertisers. We're getting threats. People saying they'll boycott us for publishing religious propaganda. Marcus's stomach sank. What are you saying? I'm saying the board wants you to write a retraction. Or at least a follow-up piece acknowledging that the miracle could have alternative explanations. Something to calm the critics. You want me to lie? I want you to be balanced. Present other viewpoints. Give skeptics something to hold on to. Sarah sighed. Marcus, I believe you witnessed something extraordinary. But I have a magazine to run. Advertisers to keep. A board to answer to. So you're asking me to compromise the truth to protect the business. I'm asking you to consider that truth has nuance. That maybe there are scientific explanations we haven't discovered yet. That calling it a miracle is only one interpretation. Marcus thought about the 7 witnesses. About Nevada's medical records. About the security footage. About his own experience feeling Maya's presence. He thought about Nevada's message. Choose truth. Especially when it scares you. No, he said quietly. No, I won't write a retraction. I won't give skeptics false comfort. I told the truth. 7 witnesses experienced something impossible. Medical records document it. Security footage captured it. Either it happened or we're all lying, or delusional, and I can prove we're not. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Marcus, if you refuse to write the retraction, the board might let you go. Then they let me go. You're willing to lose your job over this? Yes. Marcus surprised himself with how certain he felt. Because if I retract the truth to keep my job, I'm not a journalist anymore. I'm just someone who writes what's convenient. I understand. Sarah's voice softened. And I'm proud of you. But I don't know if I can protect you from the board. I'm not asking you to. I'm just asking you to remember why we became journalists. To tell truth, not to please advertisers. After hanging up, Marcus sat in the airport terminal, watching planes take off and land. People coming and going, pursuing their own journeys, carrying their own stories. His phone buzzed. A text from Nevada. Did you get the Senate invitation? Marcus replied, yes. What do you think? Nevada. I think Maya sent it. This is your choice. The one she warned me about. Marcus, what should I do? Nevada. Tell the truth. To Congress. To the world. Even if it cost you everything. That's what Maya would want. Marcus stared at her message. In the past 3 days, he'd risked his career, his reputation, his credibility, all to tell a truth most people didn't want to believe. Now he was being asked to risk even more. Testify before Congress. Make his story even more public. Face even more scrutiny and criticism. Or walk away. Return to San Francisco. Try to rebuild his career. Let the story fade. He thought about Catherine Morrison, the woman who'd called to say the interview saved her life. He thought about the thousands of messages from people saying the story gave them hope. He thought about Maya challenging him to be brave enough to believe. And he thought about 7 witnesses who trusted him with the most important moment of their lives. Marcus opened his email and typed, Mr. Chen, thank you for the invitation. I would be honored to testify before the Senate committee. Nevada, Musk and I will be there. Please send details about scheduling and logistics. Best regards, Marcus Chen. Then he composed another email to Sarah. Sarah, I've been invited to testify before a Senate committee about the opioid crisis. I'll be sharing Nevada's story and the miracle that saved her with Congress. This will likely generate more controversy, more backlash, more advertisers threatening to leave. If the board wants to fire me, I understand. But I won't stop telling this truth. It's too important. Thank you for believing in me, even when it's been difficult. Marcus. He hit send on both emails and felt a strange peace settle over him. He'd made his choice. Truth over security. Hope over cynicism. Faith over fear. His phone rang. He expected Sarah. But it was Elon Musk. Marcus, I just got a call from Senator Hartley's office. You agreed to testify. I did. Good. So did I. Musk's voice was energized. And I'm bringing my lawyers, my PR team, and enough documentation to bury any skeptic who questions Nevada's story. We're going to change policy, save lives, turn this miracle into something concrete. Elon, you don't have to do this. You've already risked so much. That's exactly why I have to do more. What good is having resources if I don't use them for something that matters? Musk paused. My whole life I've been trying to change the world through technology. Electric cars, reusable rockets, neural implants. But maybe the most important thing I can do is tell people that love is more powerful than technology. That faith matters more than innovation. That miracles are real. After they hung up, Marcus boarded his plane. As it lifted off, he looked out the window at Las Vegas shrinking below the Strip's lights, the desert surrounding it, the mountains in the distance. Somewhere down there, 7 people had witnessed the impossible. And somehow, impossibly, Marcus was one of them. He pulled out the photo Connor had given him and studied each face. These were his people now, his family, connected forever by one extraordinary night. He touched the cross Esperanza had given him, Daniel's cross, and felt the weight of it. Not just the physical weight of silver, but the spiritual weight of love that transcends death. The plane climbed higher, breaking through clouds into clear sky. Marcus opened his laptop and began writing a new piece. Not about the miracle itself, but about what happens after miracles. How they change you, how they force you to choose between comfortable skepticism and uncomfortable truth. How they demand you live differently. He wrote about his journey from grief-stricken cynic to hope-filled witness, about learning that death wasn't the end, that Maya was still with him somehow, that love really was eternal. He wrote for 3 hours, lost in the words, feeling Maya's presence guiding his hands across the keyboard. When he finished, he had a new essay, Living After Miracles, a journalist's guide to believing the impossible. He sent it to Sarah with a simple note. If you fire me, I understand. But this is my last piece for you. Publish it or don't. Either way, I'm proud of it. The plane landed in San Francisco at sunset. Marcus took an Uber to his apartment, a small one-bedroom in the Mission District that suddenly felt different, empty, not in a lonely way, but in an open way. Like it was waiting to be filled with something new. He unpacked, showered, and was making dinner when his phone rang. Sarah, I read your essay, she said, without preamble. And it's beautiful. Raw. Honest. The best thing you've ever written. She paused. The board is going to hate it. I know, but I'm publishing it anyway. Tomorrow morning, front page of the website. Sarah's voice grew stronger. Because you're right. If we stop telling truth to please advertisers, we're not journalists anymore. We're just content creators serving corporate interests. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might lose my job too. Sarah laughed. But if we're going down telling the truth. That's what journalism is supposed to be. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, thinking about everything that had happened in 8 days. He'd gone from investigating a viral video to becoming part of the story. From skeptic to believer. From man hiding in grief to man learning to live again. At 2 a.m. he got up and walked to his window. San Francisco glowed low, a different kind of city than Vegas, but equally full of people searching for meaning, hope, miracles. He thought about testifying before Congress, about telling Nevada's story to senators and representatives, about trying to turn one miracle into policies that could save thousands of lives. It was terrifying. It was also exactly what Maya would want him to do. His phone buzzed. A text from Nevada. Can't sleep. You? Marcus. Same. Thinking about Congress. Nevada. Scared? Marcus. Terrified. Nevada. Good. Maya said you're bravest when you're scared. Marcus smiled and typed, how do you know so much about what Maya said? Nevada. Because when I was dead we talked for what felt like hours. She told me everything about you. How you protected her when you were kids. How you stayed with her every day in the hospital. How you blamed yourself for not saving her. Marcus. What else did she say? Nevada. She said you were always the smart one, the rational one, the one who needed proof, but that you also had the biggest heart. And that someday you'd see something that forced your heart and mind to work together instead of fighting each other. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Nevada. She said that when that day came, you'd become the person you were always meant to be. Not just a journalist recording truth, but a witness living it. Marcus. Did she say anything else? Nevada. Yes. She said to tell you she's proud of you. Every day. And that she's waiting for you. But not yet. You have too much work to do first. Marcus set down his phone and let himself cry, not from sadness, but from overwhelming gratitude. His sister was gone, but also not gone. She'd died. But love hadn't. She'd left this world, but she hadn't left him. And somehow, impossibly, she was still helping people, still guiding him, still loving him across whatever boundaries separated life from death. Marcus picked up his phone and looked at the photo of 7 witnesses. Tomorrow, his new essay would publish. Next week, he'd testify before Congress. Next month, who knew what would happen? But tonight, right now, Marcus Chen's skeptical journalist, grieving brother, reluctant witness knew one thing for certain. Miracles were real. Not because science proved them, not because everyone believed them, but because 7 broken people had experienced one together. Because love had defeated death in a small church in Vegas. Because Nevada Musk was alive when she should be dead. Because Maya Chen was still present somehow, still helping, still loving. And because Marcus had learned the most important truth of all, Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about being brave enough to believe anyway. Marcus touched Daniel's cross around his neck and whispered into the San Francisco night, "Thank you, Maya, for everything, for the miracle, for Nevada, for giving me a reason to believe again. I promise I'll tell your story, our story for as long as I have breath." And somewhere, somehow, Marcus knew his sister heard him. Knew she smiled. Knew she whispered back, "I know you will, little brother. That's why I chose you. Now go save some lives. I'll be here when your work is done." Marcus smiled through his tears, looked at the city glowing below, and for the first time in 2 years, he felt completely at peace. Death wasn't the end. Love was eternal. Miracles were real. And tomorrow he'd wake up and keep telling the truth, no matter what it cost him. Because that's what witnesses do. They tell what they've seen. Even when it's impossible. Especially when it's impossible. That's when truth matters most. And that was the end of Marcus Chen's incredible journey from skeptical journalist to faithful witness. A story about miracles, hope, and the power of love that transcends even death. We'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop your city and country in the comments below. It's amazing to see how stories like this touch hearts all around the world. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. It really helps us share these inspiring tales with more people who need hope. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories like this one. Stories about faith, courage, miracles, and the extraordinary moments that change ordinary lives forever. And here's the most important part. If you know someone who's grieving, struggling with addiction, or just needs to hear that miracles are real, share this video with them. Share it with your friends, your family, anyone who needs hope today. Because that's what stories like this are for, to spread kindness, awareness, and the truth that love never dies. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep believing. Miracles happen every day.